NASCAR racing next on MRN Radio.
It's the Super Bowl of the sport, a race steeped in tradition and prestige, the Daytona 500 by STP. You can go back to the early 1960s and find Richard Petty and Ned Jarrett on a NASCAR front row. Today in 1993, it's again a Petty, Kyle, and a Jarrett Dale having earned the top qualifying spots. Kyle Petty trying to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather Lee and his dad Richard as a third-generation Daytona 500 winner. His thoughts.
You know, it's different being in a position where you feel like you got a car that can win a race, and you got a team that can win a race, and you know, to be able to win a race here and to win a race like my grandfather did and like my father had would be something more special than probably any other racetrack we run at.
The culmination of Speed Weeks 93 at Daytona, the Daytona 500 by STP. Next.
MRN Radio presents NASCAR Today. Sponsored by Goody's Headache Powders and Pain Relief Tablets, the official pain reliever of NASCAR.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a gorgeous day in Daytona Beach, Florida, and we are down to it. All the practice, all the qualifying, all the preliminary races are done, and now it's time to find out who can win the main event, the Daytona 500 by STP. That's what it's all about. 41 drivers in the day's race, and very likely, Eli, 40 of those are wondering the same thing. How strong is Dale Earnhardt's Chevrolet? Well, it's for sure there's no question about Earnhardt's driving ability. I think the big question in the race today is the car as ready to win as Dale Earnhardt?
Well, Dale Earnhardt is ready, so too is the car seemingly, but we also have to remind everybody that many, many times we wrap up our Daytona 500 broadcasts by saying, and again, the fastest car has not found its way to victory lane. So many different variables can give you the good luck and the bad luck during the 200 laps, the 500 miles here. And of course, many of the top teams had to go to backup cars prior to the running of the Gatorade Twin 125s here on Thursday. They've been working on those cars over the last few days, but even their spirits are heightened today by the reminder that it was a year ago that Davey Allison wrecked in practice and won the Daytona 500 in his backup car. So you've got strong cars all the way through this 41-car field, and it's a glorious day. You could not shoehorn another race fan into the Speedway this afternoon. We're set to get 1993's season underway.
We'll go trackside right now and get the thoughts of the two gentlemen that are up on pit row. Kyle Petty of Random, North Carolina, 189.426, and the drafting speeds have been even faster than that out here when they've been in competition. Let's get his thoughts as he approaches the 500 here with Dick Brooks.
Well, Kyle, you only get one chance a year to sit on a pole for the Daytona 500. It's all gone after the first lap of qualifying. Each year, you've done it this year. You've been on a pole all week. What's it been like?
Pretty hectic, to tell you the truth. You know, it's surprising how much just qualifying and how much attention it gets. But I guess it's because you're down here for a solid week. This is the biggest race of the year, and people are looking for things to write. And, you know, this year, with being my father's first race not in the 500 this year, and me coming back and sitting on the pole, it's been a little bit bigger.
Pontiacs have had a little trouble keeping the front end on the ground. They got a brand new front end, and they've let them change it in the back a little bit. Did you get this thing hooked up where it'll stay loose enough you can drive it?
Well, you know, we worked with it in the 125-mile races, and we got a little bit better. And, you know, we've tried a few different things and then gone back to where we were in the 125-mile races. And as much as anything, I think the racetrack just came around a little bit. So hopefully we're all right.
All right. I know it's a happy bunch of people up here. They're got their fingers crossed. They think they can win the race.
Of course, aside from a few trips to Bristol, Tennessee a few years ago when Dale Jarrett drove for the Wood Brothers, it really hasn't been until this week that he has honestly felt he was in a race car that could go out and win, if not flag to flag, that certainly by the time the afternoon ends. Dale Jarrett, the Interstate Batteries Chevrolet, just missing the pole by the tick of a clock, 189.274 miles an hour. Jim Phillips is with him.
You've been fast all week, Dale. What's the thing you've had to work on the most to keep this car up front?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to keep it from pushing. That seems to be the problem that everybody's had here with the big rear spoilers. And but I've got a good guy for that in Jimmy Maycar. And this Interstate Battery Chevrolet has been strong. And hopefully today we can just keep it out of trouble and stay up towards the front.
Is this team seasoned enough to win the Daytona 500?
I really believe we are. We had some good runs here last year, finished third in the July race, finished third on Thursday. I believe that we have what it takes to win this race.
36-year-old Dale Jarrett hopes to put the name Jarrett in victory lane here in the Daytona 500 by STP.
Well, there's no doubt that we've got the best crop of rookie drivers in 1993 in Winston Cup racing that we've had in a long time, and one of those has been so impressive all week long here. Jeff Gordon won the qualifying race the other day. Winston Kelly is with him.
Stepped up to Winston Cup racing in a big way on Thursday with that win, but the question is, can you hang with the veterans today and win?
Well, you know, that 125-mile race was about as good a test as you can have, but it's still a long day today, and, you know, you just got to be there at the end. We're just going to try to ride along here with these guys, see what we got to work with, but this DuPont crew's put an awful good car underneath me for this weekend, and we're awful happy. We just hope that we're there at the end, and whatever it comes down to, it comes down to, but we just want to be there all day.
Jeff Gordon, one of the Max Race Card Rookie of the Years, rolls off third this afternoon.
Daytona International Speedway filled to overflowing here this afternoon for this 1993 renewal of the $2,504,000 Daytona 500 by STP. Of course, part of the monies that are being competed for today and will again be battled for here in 1993, the Unical Challenge. Monies that go to the pole sitter should he go on to win a given Winston Cup race, very much as it's been over the last number of years. When we wrapped up at Atlanta late last season, no one had won the Unical Challenge. It rolls over to $22,800 here this afternoon for Kyle Petty in the mellow yellow Pontiac. Trackside right now, a number of dignitaries are gathering at the head of the field alongside the brand new Pontiac safety cars. Among those, the Reverend Hal Marchman, a man who has followed the growth of Daytona International Speedway, NASCAR racing, and this Daytona 500 by STP. He'll be offering the invocation here in just a moment or so, followed by the command to fire the engines for the 41-car starting field. And a glorious field of race cars it is. Really some of the very best we've ever seen. The qualifying speeds ranging only from 186.7 to 189.4 miles an hour. So consequently, very little spread from first place back to 40th. The 41st man in the field is Dave Marcus with a provisional starting spot.
That may be one of the closest fields that we have ever had at Daytona, from very tail end of the field all the way up to the front. Talked about the weather. Yesterday and today have just been something that if you could order weather like you wanted for race day, we've had it yesterday and today.
Now let's go trackside. The Reverend Hal Marchman with our invocation.
We thank you, our Heavenly Father, for the freedom and the abundance that we have in America. May we work diligently to preserve all of this for our children and for every generation to come. We thank you today for this reunion with friends from all over the world who've come here to experience and enjoy the ultimate in stock car racing. We invoke your blessing on everyone who participates in any way to bring about this exciting event. Help us to be a caring people. Shalom and amen.
Hello, Mike. It's great to be here. Wonderful spectacle, the best in the country. And our people here are going to have a wonderful time seeing the best drivers, the best car, and, quite frankly, the best spectacle. Well, I'm delighted to be here. Is it time?
Yes, sir.
It's time to say it.
Please.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
That is Congressman John Dingell, a Democrat from the state of Michigan, the chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, who joins us here at Daytona this afternoon as the Grand Marshal of this Daytona 500 by STP.
Well, he really got into that, gentlemen, start your engines. He may visit with us a little bit later this afternoon. Quickly, before they get the cars on the racetrack, let's see if Dick Brooks is caught up with Dale Earnhardt.
Well, I sure have. He's sitting here with his car running. I guess I get to ask the last question. Can you make this race finally win this thing?
Well, today's one of our best chances. We got a good shot at it. I feel good. Let's see what we can do with them.
All right. It's a little hard to talk with a motor running. We were talking a little bit earlier, and he's won everything, and he's been in this week. And he really thinks he can do it here. He's been capable of winning the race quite a few times, and something would happen right at the end, and just couldn't get it pulled off. But they believe they're going to do it today.
Now, the only thing I said a moment ago is Earnhardt is ready. If the car is anywhere near as ready as he is, look out. We'll be right back. From the Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio.
MRN Radio presents the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. today. The Daytona 500 by STP.
We are 2 laps away from the start of the Daytona 500 by STP. Let's take a quick look at the starting lineup. 41st, Dave Marcus of Wausau, Wisconsin. 40th, Al Unser Jr. of Albuquerque, New Mexico. 39th, Jim Sauter of Necedah, Wisconsin. 38th, Jimmy Hensley of Ridgeway, Virginia. 37th, Harry Gant of Taylorsville, North Carolina. 36th, Joe Ruttman of Upland, California. Derek Cope of Spanaway, Washington is 35th. 34th, Rusty Wallace. He's from St. Louis, Missouri. 33rd, Ted Musgrave from Franklin, Wisconsin. 32nd, Morgan Shepard from Conover, North Carolina. And Rick Mast will start 31st from Rockbridge, Bath, Virginia.
30th starter, Jimmy Spencer of Berwick, Pennsylvania. Jimmy Horton of Hamilton, New Jersey starts 29th. 28th is Michael Waltrip of Owensboro, Kentucky. Bobby Hamilton of Nashville, Tennessee starts 27th. 26th is Darrell Waltrip of Franklin, Tennessee. And one of the Rookie of the Year contenders, Bobby Labonte of Corpus Christi, Texas starts 25th. Another of the Max Race Cards Rookie of the Year contenders, Kenny Wallace of St. Louis, Missouri starts 24th. 23rd is Mark Martin of Batesville, Arkansas. Wally Dallenbach Jr. of Basalt, Colorado starts 22nd. 21st is Dick Trickle of Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin.
And 20th in the middle of the field, Brett Bodine from Chemung, New York. 19th, Terry Labonte from Corpus Christi, Texas. 18th will be Hut Strickland from Calera, Alabama. 17th, that's Chad Little from Spokane, Washington. 16th, Phil Parsons, Detroit, Michigan. 15th, Rick Wilson, he's from Bartow, Florida. In 14th, Sterling Marlin from Columbia, Tennessee. 13th, Lake Speed from Jackson, Mississippi. 12th will be Ricky Rudd from Chesapeake, Virginia. The 11th starter, Davey Allison from Hueytown, Alabama.
The top 10, defending Winston Cup champion Alan Kulwicki of Greenfield, Wisconsin. He is 10th. 9th is Bobby Hillen of Midland, Texas. 8th starter, Ernie Irvin of Modesto, California. Kenny Schrader of Fenton, Missouri starts in 7th. 6th will be Jeff Bodine of Chemung, New York. Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia starts 5th. 4th will be the man who has done it all so far in Speed Weeks this year, Dale Earnhardt of Kannapolis, North Carolina. 3rd is Jeff Gordon from Pittsboro, Indiana. The front row, you've already heard from them. Dale Jarrett of Hickory, North Carolina. And Kyle Petty out of Randleman, North Carolina. The mellow yellow Pontiac at 189.426 miles an hour.
And as the field crosses the line, they get the indication. 1 lap and we'll go to green. Richard Petty is up on the flag stand. He'll be the honorary starter. We'll talk a little bit about that as the field swings down to the west end of the Speedway and turns 1 and 2 to cover the action for MRN this afternoon. Joe Moore of Hampton, Virginia.
Thanks, Barney. I'm on a platform here on the inside just at the exit of turn 2, looking across the track and all these motorhomes and race fans ready for the beginning of the Daytona 500 by STP. Up here in turns 1 and 2 is where you pick and choose your dance partner for the back straightaway draft and just hope you choose the right one. Many times if you get in the wrong line, you'll go the wrong way, and of course what you want to do is move ahead, find the good draft, and all this week so far it's been the outside line. I'll cover the action through turns 1 and 2 and onto the back straightaway here today.
And as they sweep down that long back straightaway all week long, we've seen them get real brave, as many as 3 wide going off into turns 3 and 4 down to the east end of the racetrack. From Daytona Beach, Florida, Alan Bestwick is there.
Thank you, Barney. Good afternoon, everyone. Stationed on a platform on the inside of the racetrack right at the end of the back straightaway and the entrance to turn number 3. Those drivers who get brave, as you spoke of, Barney, need to find a way back to double file when they get to the end of this back straightaway and into the banking of turn number 3. There's not quite enough room to race 3 wide when you get to this end of the speedway.
But if you're going to make it 3 wide for that last lap dash to the checkered flag, it'll happen in front of Fred Armstrong from Portland, Oregon. He's high atop turns 3 and 4.
Thanks, Eli. Good afternoon, everybody. You're going to have to make those passes complete in turns 3 and 4, and we've seen many drivers throughout the last couple of weeks get hung out to dry to the inside and lose a lot of positions. As you come off turn number 4, the pavement goes from 31 degrees back to virtually flat, and this is where you can make the run back to start-finish. You got to find your way back in line. We're on a platform just on the outside of turn 4. We'll bring you all the action from the east end of the Speedway.
The temperature is 60 degrees, climbing towards 70 today. Wind out of the northwest, 15 miles an hour. As the Pontiac Firebird pulls down pit road, Richard Petty, the honorary starter, waves the green flag.
And Petty puts a lot of energy into it as they cross the start-finish line. Underway in the Daytona 500 by STP. Good, clean start. Everybody stays door to door as they head down to turn 1.
Dead even racing off into turn 1 for the very first lap. Kyle Petty now begins to get a fender out in front of Dale Jarrett. Right behind him, Jeff Gordon gets right up on the rear duct of Kyle. Kyle now drifts up a bit. Jeff looks down low for a chance to get by, but Kyle holds on to the lead off turn 2.
Now Kyle Petty right smack halfway in between the inside and outside line of cars. Now he'll move up into the outside lane. Now he'll go back to the middle, and Dale Jarrett powers by on the outside. Jeff Gordon down to the inside, racing for the lead.
3 wide as they enter the corner, but now Gordon backs out of it, and Kyle Petty gets shuffled back a couple of positions. His Pontiac being passed on the inside and the outside as Jeff Gordon leads off turn 4.
Kyle Petty still can't get out of that middle lane. lane. They bypass him either way. Back to the stripe. Lap 1 of 200. Jeff Gordon on the low side of the racetrack leads the first lap of the Daytona 500 as he charges towards Max Race Card's Rookie of the Year honors here in 1993. Double file in turn 1.
Dale Jarrett has the nose out in front coming into the turn, but by the time they reach turn 2, Gordon again has his nose out in front. But Jarrett won't give in. Still dead even for the lead off turn 2.
And in the second row, side by side, are Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt trying to push their prospective drafting partner past and into the lead. Earnhardt will help Jarrett on the outside. Jarrett takes the lead. Earnhardt is second, Gordon third.
Jeff Gordon gets shuffled back to the inside of the racetrack as he battles it out for the third position with Jeff Bodine. Meanwhile, two Chevrolets establish the lead. Here they come off the corner. Dale Earnhardt in the second position. Up front, it's Dale Jarrett.
Front two running out front all by themselves. Door-to-door racing going on from third position on back. It is Jarrett the leader, Earnhardt second. Jeff Bodine has moved up into third. Now he has clear sailing. The battle will be for fourth place, door-to-door in turn 1.
Gordon's there trying to get back in line. Ernie Irvins in the outside lane trying to keep Gordon from getting in ahead of him. Also filling the line down on the inside, Bill Elliott. He's up alongside the Alan Kulwicki car. They'll make it 2 by 2 this time again off turn 2.
Racing from fourth on back through 10th. Double wide as the field maneuvers down the back straightaway one more time. Now Bill Elliott ducks down to the inside, takes a look around. Jeff Gordon will have to drop back in line, single file at the end of the backstretch.
Caution on the Speedway here at the start-finish line. Dick Trickle has apparently lost an engine in his automobile. Here come the lead cars out of turn number 4. Caution will fly at lap number 3 in the aftermath of the problem involving Dick Trickle, whose car now continues to coast around the racetrack. At the caution, it is Dale Jarrett leading, Dale Earnhardt second. Third now is Jeff Bodine, Jeff Gordon fourth, and fifth is Ernie Irvin. Kyle Petty has gotten shuffled back to 12th spot after starting on the pole position.
Dick Trickle will become the first casualty of the Daytona 500 by STP. He has gone to the garage area. Let's see if Winston Kelly has found him.
Dick is still sitting in the car. He's talking to some of his crew members. Now he's trying to crank the car up again, so we'll let him continue to work with his crew members. Dick, do you know what the problem is?
No, I think something happened on the cylinders, I believe.
That's Dick Trickle. He finished 5th last year, but he's behind the wall early this afternoon.
Apparently it is an engine problem for Dick Trickle. Today's broadcast of the Daytona 500 by STP is brought to you under exclusive radio rights granted by the Daytona International Speedway to MRN Radio. It is solely for the private, non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any publication, reproduction, or other use of the description and accounts of this race without the expressed written consent of NASCAR and MRN Radio is prohibited.
We've got just about anybody who is anybody in the world of motorsports here at Daytona this week, but one fella unable to join us here. He comes to the racetrack on occasion, but he used to be a regular here at Winston Cup races. Wade Thornburg, a longtime crew member for Richard Petty. He's been with Richard, I guess, for better than 20 years or so now, and he's hospitalized at the Duke Medical Center in North Carolina. And Wade, I know you're listening. We hope to see you back out at the racetrack or certainly back at the shops in Level Cross very, very quickly. He was one of Richard's key number one men for so many years when Richard was winning his unprecedented 200 Winston Cup races.
Yeah, all the way through the 60s and up into the mid-70s, Wade Thornburg was a standard at the racetrack. You saw him really every time the car pulled in. Wade was right there doing a lot of preparation on the car, and our good wishes go out to him. Hopefully he will recover soon and be able to come to a few races with us this year. Field has just been given the indication, one more lap, and we will go back to green flag racing.
Harry Gant brings the Skoal Bandit down pit road. That is no longer an Oldsmobile. It's now a Chevrolet. We'll get an update after Winston Kelly gets the word from the crew there on that very quick stop as Harry now returns to action. Today's broadcast of the Daytona 500 by STP is being heard on 394 radio stations in 40 states, plus, as we mentioned earlier, around the world, wherever Americans are stationed on the Armed Forces Radio Network. A number of new affiliates joining us today for the first time, including WFTW in Mary Esther, Florida, WMBM in Miami Beach, Florida, in Greensboro, Georgia, WKKD-FM, McRae, Georgia, tuned in on WYSC-FM, in Monmouth, Illinois, WRAM-FM, in Bedford, Indiana, we've got WBIW on board, and in Aurora, Indiana, another of our new affiliates, WXCH-FM. We welcome all of you and all of those 394 stations joining us today here in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Pace car with the field in tow up in turns 3 and 4, getting ready to go back to green this time around. We've completed 5 laps. They'll cut them loose on lap number 6 with Dale Jarrett at the front of the pack. I think the big thing we watched there was Kyle Petty get caught out of line where he might needed to have been and jumbled himself all the way back to about 8th or 9th position, I guess.
Well, he was. Actually, now they're going to post him in 13th upon the restart. That's where he finally got in line in single file formation. Elmo Langley takes the pace car to pit road. We're going green at lap number 7.
Green flag is in the air. Single file restart. They take it back down to turn number 1. Again, Dale Jarrett. Good start for him. He pulls away a couple of car lengths on Earnhardt as they head for turn 1.
Single file going up into the turn. Dale Jarrett ahead of Dale Earnhardt. Jeff Gordon back and forth. Looks to the inside of Jeff Bodine. And Bodine may help him out by taking a bit higher line this time coming to the turn. But the man on the move is Bobby Hillen. He jumps from about 10th in line up to 7th, but may get left in the draft on the back straightaway.
Alan Kulwicki closed the hole Hillen hoped to jump into, so he's going to lose a couple of more spots. Now he'll slide in behind in the 8th spot. At the head of the pack, here comes Dale Earnhardt. Down to the inside, he'll take the lead.
Dale Earnhardt grabs the lead as he enters turn number 3. Also, Bill Elliott stepping out of line to try to make a pass on Ernie Irvin. Meanwhile, Earnhardt leads off the 4th corner back to the start-finish line.
Here they come back out of turn number 4. Everybody watching and waiting to see what their next-door neighbor does. The only man caught out of line for the moment, still Ernie Irvin and Sterling Marlin. Marlin gets in line behind Kyle Petty, and as Earnhardt leads the draft back into turn number 1, Kyle ducks out. He'll give Irvin some help.
Here they come back into turn 1. Irvin trying to get back in line. He won't be able to do it right now, but Kyle Petty does close the gap, pulling right up on the rear deck of Ernie Irvin. It's 2 against about 12 in the outside lane.
Irvin racing alongside Bobby Hillen for the 7th spot. Now he'll slide in behind Hillen into the 8th spot. Alan Kulwicki thought about stepping out of line for a minute, trying to grab 5th away from Bill Elliott. Now falls back single file.
Kyle Petty still caught out of line on the inside of Ricky Rudd, back for about the 10th position. Petty down to the inside of the racetrack. A couple of Fords stinking up behind, but Kyle Petty losing the position as he comes off the corner.
Some things never change at Daytona. The draft has been a constant here almost ever since this racetrack opened all the way back in the late 50s. If you get out of it, you lose positions. If you can stay in it, you can stay up there all day long. Dale takes them back to turn number 1. Now only one car pulling out of line, back at about 14th position.
Davey Allison there trying to get by the Brett Bodine car, but he'll lose that battle and also maybe lose another spot. Sterling Marlin pulls up now alongside Davey Allison, and Davey's trying to find a way to get back in line.
Davey racing alongside the 13th place car. Wally Dallenbach is tucked up tightly behind the Sterling Marlin car in 14th, so Allison's going to have to slide in line back in the 15th spot as Earnhardt leads the field to 3.
Davey Allison finally tucks in line behind the Wally Dallenbach car. Nobody stepping out of line up front. Jeff Gordon taking a look to the inside for a moment on Jeff Bodine, but stays in line off 4.
We told you Harry Gant made a quick pit stop a few moments ago. Winston Kelly?
Jimmy Penland, the gas man, tells us nothing wrong with the car, just a gas and go stop for the Skoll Chevrolet.
Dale Earnhardt leads the Daytona 500.
10 laps complete in the Daytona 500 by STP. It is Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine from the Daytona International Speedway. This is MRN Radio.
Caution for the second time here at Daytona International Speedway. The problem began as Jimmy Hensley, driving the Jimmy Means Napa Ford, moved past the start-finish line and went off into turn number 1. And Joe Moore, that's when the smoke began.
Smoke got even worse as it came into the turning line. Suddenly, we were watching the car. The back end broke loose. It just spun around, slammed into the outside wall, indicating possibly dumping a motor. And then, of course, getting the tires in the oil. The car spun away, hit the outside wall, rolled down to the inside. Jimmy steered it out of the way of oncoming traffic, although there wasn't much behind him. Safety personnel already over there attending to Jimmy, and he's moving around in the car.
Boy, it's not been a good week for that team. That car belongs to Jimmy Means, and they have had a practice crash the other afternoon.
Yeah, I saw Jimmy last night, by the way. He and his family at the same restaurant we were for dinner last night, and he was still a little bit uncomfortable, but he was saying to me that he hoped a couple of weeks. Remember, we had told the folks on Thursday, if you remember, folks, we were telling you that it might be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before he got back into the race car, and Jimmy said last night maybe a couple of weeks, and he hopes to be back well enough to drive, although the comfort level won't be there, but he hopes to be well enough to drive in just a couple of weeks' time.
Well, we said a moment ago that Kyle Petty, who started on the pole, went back through the field in a hurry, dropped back to 14th place one time. He currently is 9th, and Dick Brooks has been near that pit area. Dick, is there a problem on Kyle's car?
Well, I went down and I asked Felix Sabates, the guy that owns the car, if there was a problem at all. He said, no, we're just taking it easy. So I would say that Felix is growing in the way he gives answers. I don't know if there's a problem or not, but that sure takes all the pressure away from it. I don't know if they're taking it easy or not. The car looks like it holds its own good until he gets out of line and he can't keep up.
So Kyle Petty, who has fallen back a little bit in the field. We had a few cars on pit road a moment ago. Kenny Wallace was in. Ted Musgrave pitted his car. Also, Joe Ruttman was in along with Dave Marcus. Winston Kelly?
Derek Cope also came in, Barney. He just got gasoline. Marcus gasoline only. 4 tires for Joe Ruttman's automobile and gasoline.
Just a couple of quick, interesting notes here, although it's very early and it really is very to some degree insignificant at lap number 13. But Brett Bodine has made a good number of moves here very early. He was as high as 9th at one point, now settles in an 11th spot here upon the caution flag. And remember, the Quaker State machine started back in 20th. And Darrell Waltrip, conversely, has backpedaled to 35th position. DW started 26th, now running in 35th. That is one of the backup cars that we had talked about after that practice accident here on Wednesday, having to go to the backup car before the Gatorade Twins on Thursday, and old DW trying to get himself back in gear. But Barry Dodson, the crew chief, says one thing we've got going for us as Darrell brings the car down pit road is the driver. Barry Dodson says there's nothing like having DW in the car.
It's a very good feeling, especially, with some of the teammates we have here, and his experience and his success in the past. And, if I can bring something to the program, we should have a very good 1993 with our Western Auto Chevy. And Daytona's been real relaxed. I expected it to be a little more hectic. It was for a few days with two cars in the Busch Clash and qualifying and having to get all that out of the way. But I just feel good now, every morning waking up, seeing the potential that we have over here.
And that team certainly has potential, and Barry Dodson brings a lot of leadership to that operation.
Jimmy Hensley's car on the record, just being pulled through the pit wall. They'll take it back to the garage area. We may be able to get a word with him a little bit later this afternoon. We're getting set to go back to green right now. And Harry Gant has been on pit road a couple of times. They said a moment ago, we got a report from Winston Kelly, there was no problem on the car. But anytime you see a car stop on the second or third lap of the race, and again here at lap number 14, there has to be a little something going on. We'll follow that up here in just a moment.
Winston is in the garage area. He'll be checking out some other stories there, getting a good look at the Jimmy Hensley car as it heads back to the garage area. But in a moment or so, Winston will also update us further from the Skoll pit area. Dale Earnhardt leads. Jeff Bodine is second. Those cars nose to tail. Jeff Gordon running in third. Fourth is Dale Jarrett. Ernie Irvan fifth. Sixth is Bill Elliott. Ken Schrader is seventh. Kulwicki is eighth. Kyle Petty ninth. And Bobby Hillin is 10th as we go restart again on lap number 15.
And we have seen some strong cars back from about 8th position on, trying to work their way to the front. A couple of those we talked about. Bobby Hillin Jr. has made some good moves, and Brett Bodine has really been on the ramble also, working his way to the front of the pack as they take it back over to turn 2.
Those two cars, Hillin and Brett Bodine, are nose to tail right now, 9th and 10th, and neither one stepping out of line. The whole field practically all single file this time as they make their way through turns 1 and 2 and hit the back straightaway.
Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Jeff Bodine is second. Third is Jeff Gordon. Dale Jarrett fourth with Ernie Irvan. Fifth. Sixth is Bill Elliott. Alan Kulwicki seventh. And Ken Schrader eighth. Kyle Petty runs ninth. And Bobby Hillin is 10th as they go to 3.
Elliott taking a look to the inside of Ernie Irvan as they swing up the banking of turn number 3. Now the whole line goes up high in the banking of turns 3 and 4, and nobody steps out of line. Back for about the 10th position. There's a bit. Ricky Rudd on the inside.
He'll hold position there alongside for the moment. Further back at around 30th spot, Mark Martin get out of line, and he has been going steadily backwards, trying to find an opening. He's now just ahead of Jimmy Spencer and Michael Waltrip, who are also on the inside groove. But at 9th spot, that's where they get too wide near the front.
Ricky Rudd down to the inside of Bobby Hillin trying to pick up a spot. He'll get some drafting help from Sterling Marlin. They'll try to move ahead using that inside line. Rudd will get by Hillin and now go to work on Ken Schrader.
Kyle Petty is pulled down from the outside line in front of Ricky Rudd and Sterling Marlin, trying to use their drafting help and lead them to the front. Right now it's not working. They're only able to just get up alongside Bill Elliott.
A couple of Fords on the outside of him as he swings into turn number 3. Bill Elliott to the high side. Now he'll pick up some drafting help to the bottom of the racetrack. Ricky Rudd tucks in behind Kyle Petty off 4.
And from 6th place on back, they've got a hornet's nest going back there. Kyle Petty down to the inside trying to find someone to draft with him. Ricky Rudd's helped him the last couple of laps around as they work across the start-finish line. The rookie driver, Jeff Gordon, goes to work on 2nd place in turn 1.
Gordon dives to the inside of Jeff Bodine, pulls up alongside. Bodine doesn't give in yet, though. He keeps his Ford wound up on the outside lane. Gordon still there, working hard. Meanwhile, right behind him, here's Kyle Petty breaking out a line to the inside.
Petty has pulled up past both Bill Elliott and Ernie Irvan. Now he draws up alongside Dale Jarrett, and they form a tight 3-car draft. Now Kyle's going to drop down to the inside and bypass Jeff Gordon as he goes after 2nd place.
3 abreast on the entrance of the corner, and Kyle Petty pulls off the move. Jeff Gordon now shuffled back into the 5th position. Here comes Kyle Petty for the lead. On the outside is Dale Earnhardt as they exit 4.
And somewhere down on pit road, Felix Zapates is looking at Dick Brooks saying, I told you there was nothing wrong. He was just taking his time.
19 laps are in the record book here at Daytona this afternoon in the 500 by STP, and Kyle Petty has reasserted himself at the front of the pack, and the rookie driver, Jeff Gordon, has really impressed everyone so far. He's latched onto the draft, and that is the battle for 1st and 2nd. For 3rd place, that's been a dandy also. Dale Earnhardt finds himself on the high side, trying to get back up there as he battles with Ricky Rudd. Rudd.
Jeff Gordon now midway down the back straightaway. He'll just muscle himself past Kyle Petty and bring Ricky Rudd along with him, while very quietly the IndyCar star and defending Indianapolis 500 champion Alan Sir Jr. driving Ken Schrader's backup car. He's beginning to rumble towards the front.
Yeah, he has made some good moves back there, working the draft real good. Of course, he has some experience in the IROC cars here, but he has been very impressive all week long. At first, they couldn't get the car up to par, but he is working his way to the front lap by lap coming up through the field. I'll tell you what, the intensity in the early going in this race, Joe Moore, is about as high as I've ever seen it. You would still think they're running for the final lap the way they're going at it.
Double file practically every time they come to the turn. It's a different person down to the inside trying to make a move. Right now, Ken Schrader at work.
He has picked up drafting help from Dale Earnhardt and Ernie Irvan on the inside, working on Jeff Gordon and Ricky Rudd, also Sterling Marlin on the outside. Earnhardt thinks about making it 3 wide. For now, we'll follow Schrader.
He'll tuck it down to the inside. Ken Schrader will lead now through the middle of the corner. Up high is Jeff Gordon. He'll get shuffled back to the third position as Dale Earnhardt gets by.
So now as Kenny Schrader comes off the low line of the racetrack, he'll swing back out towards the outside retaining wall, and he will lead lap number 23. Ken Schrader, what a change from a year ago. He has been smiling all week long in the garage area after such a disappointing 1992. He's leading the 500.
Schrader in front of Earnhardt, then it's Ernie Irvan riding third. Fourth is Jeff Gordon. Fifth is side by side. That's your first Ford in the lineup. Alan Kulwicki working down to the inside of Ricky Rudd.
Running right behind them in 7th and 8th will be Kyle Petty and Sterling Marlin. Double wide behind them. Jeff Bodine down to the inside of Mark Martin. Couple spots farther back. Here's Bobby Hillen down 3 wide, trying to move up into the 11th spot.
Bobby Hillen tucks down to the inside of the racetrack, and up high goes Bill Elliott. Hillen will dust off another car and now go side by side with Dale Jarrett for about the 10th position as he stays to the bottom of the racetrack.
And we've been watching some of those cars back at about the middle of the pack. Bill Elliott is one of those. He's had a lot of trouble getting in the draft and working his way to the front. He's picked up a few positions, but it is so difficult unless you have a drafting partner. If you get single file, you're going to lose 3 or 4 spots. Even if somebody lets you back in, there's just no way to keep it up there. They're back in turn 1 in a battle for the lead.
Down to the inside of the racetrack, it's Earnhardt once again, taking the inside line, blowing by Ken Schrader. Earnhardt's back out in front.
Ernie Irvan tried to go with him, following Earnhardt through, but couldn't quite keep up, so he's had to fall back in line in the 3rd spot. Running right behind Irvan in the 4th spot now is Jeff Gordon. Ricky Rudd is 5th, then Kulwicki, Marlin, and Kyle Petty.
8 cars all nose to tail, tied together single file, swing into turns 3 and 4. One car trying to break out of the draft is Alan Kulwicki. He takes his Ford up high in a battle for 5th. On the inside is Ricky Rudd.
Actually, the entire field staying together now, with the exception of Harry Gant and Darrell Waltrip, 2 men who you could never have imagined you'd see running at the very tail end of the field, with 2 men in the garage, Dick Trickle and Jimmy Hensley. Last lap, Earnhardt leads it. It was lap number 24 after Schrader led the 23rd lap, Jeff Gordon the 22nd lap, Kyle Petty the 21st lap. That's how it's changing here at Daytona. They're on the back straightaway.
And side by side for the 5th position where the first double wide racing is. That's where Ricky Rudd is to the inside of Alan Kulwicki, but Rudd's got no drafting help, so both Kulwicki and Sterling Marlin go by, and now Rudd's going to have trouble getting back in line.
Mark Martin on the inside will cut him off, and he continues to drop backward as a couple of Fords shut down the inside lane. Meanwhile, the top 4 tighten it up as they race off turn 4.
And this is the first time this afternoon that we've seen any kind of a separation in the field. The front 4 pull away by maybe 100 feet or more. Now the front 3 are beginning to pull away a little bit from the rookie driver, Jeff Gordon. Ricky Rudd is the first car out of line, trying to move up a notch in turn 1.
And he's having a hard time getting back in line. First had to deal with the Bobby Hillen car. He was able to flash by. Now it's Kyle Petty in the outside lane, and Ricky's trying to get in front of him. He'll now look to the backside of the Kyle Petty car and try to pull in line just ahead of Dale Jarrett.
Kyle Petty is running 10th right now. Dale Jarrett will be racing Ricky Rudd for the 11th spot as they come down the back straightaway. Jeff Bodine running right on Jarrett's back bumper, as is Michael Waltrip, so Ricky's still down to the inside by himself.
Side by side now with Elliott as they swing up into turn number 3, and no room to get in there as well. Right behind is Michael Waltrip. He'll shut down the lane. Still Ricky Rudd caught on the inside in the battle for 12th.
Jimmy Spencer is next in line. Then comes Davey Allison's automobile. Alan Sir Jr. is there. Brett Bodine. It's going to be tough for Ricky Rudd to get back in line. And for the moment, it's tough for anyone to make a move on the race leader, Dale Earnhardt.
From the Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio.
Dale Earnhardt leads the Daytona 500 by STP. Ken Schrader is second, but Schrader is getting impatient. He'll tuck inside and try and make a bid for the top spot.
He pulls even with Earnhardt. Before they get to the turn, he goes by Earnhardt, opening up the door down to the inside. Ernie Irvan will try to make the same move. He tries to pull even. Earnhardt's there, holding the outside line. Irvan with a nose out in front on the back straightaway.
Jeff Gordon, the key man in this game. Who will he go with? He'll go with Irvan. Alan Kulwicki will go down to the inside of Gordon and force him back outside. So it's Irvan and Earnhardt, Kulwicki and Gordon side side by side.
2x2 battle for the second and for the fourth positions as they shuffle into turn number 3. Meanwhile, Ken Schrader begins to open up the lead all by himself. Give him 5 car lengths off turn 4.
There was a 10-car draft there real close together for just a moment ago, and now all of a sudden it's 15 again. But Schrader, with that door-to-door racing going on behind him, has opened up a lead of about 50 feet. Hot battle still for second place. Ernie Irvin and Dale Earnhardt door-to-door. Nobody gives an inch back in turn 1.
And they're stacked up double wide right behind them as well. Alan Kulwicki and Jeff Gordon, they're side by side. Behind them, it's Sterling Marlin and Bobby Hillen Jr., and the same way back for the next 4 lines. Up front, though, Ken Schrader leads the way.
And still double wide all the way back through about the 14th or 16th place. Now here's Alan Kulwicki. He's going to drop down to the inside of Ernie Irvin. They'll go 3 wide. Earnhardt is on the outside. Give Kulwicki second next to Earnhardt.
Kulwicki puts the Ford right down to the inside. He'll battle side by side with Dale Earnhardt for the second position. Now Kulwicki slides up the banking a bit. He forces Earnhardt up high, but they stay side by side.
The Fords of Kulwicki and Bobby Hillen beginning to rumble, while the Ford of Jimmy Means and Jimmy Hensley is done for the day. Jimmy Hensley has just exited the infield care center. Winston Kelly is with him.
And Jimmy's okay. The good news, Jimmy, what happened to the car?
I'm not real sure, Winston. I believe we cut a left rear tire down. We thought the motor let go. There was a lot of smoke. I believe the left rear tire went down, just turned me going in number 1 corner. And, it's a shame. Jimmy Means has had a rough week this week. He got hurt and tore a car up. And then I get out. He gives me the opportunity to fill in for him. And I tell you, the Napa Auto Parts Ford was running, pretty good today. I hate turning his car, but that's one of them things. Something happened to it and it just got in the wall with me.
Second retiree, Jimmy Hensley, out this afternoon.
Of all the teams that just don't need that kind of luck, Jimmy Means with Jimmy Hensley, it's just been one of those weeks. Out of turn number 4 to the stripe to complete lap number 32, the leader is Ken Schrader. Earnhardt is second, Kulwicki third, Ernie Irvin fourth. Fifth is Jeff Gordon, sixth Sterling Marlin with Bobby Hillen running seventh. Kyle Petty now in the 8th spot ahead of Mark Martin ninth, and rounding out the top 10 is Dale Jarrett.
Single file draft now has at least 25 cars in it as Kenny Schrader, Dale Earnhardt, and Alan Kulwicki take them back into turn number 1. Then in that second pack of traffic with Rick Wilson back there along with Chad Little as they work off into turn number 1. Joe Moore, there's been some pretty good racing going on toward the tail end of the field, or at least toward the back of the pack.
Yeah, there is one of those cars, Allenser Jr., who moved up from the tail end of the field to up to as high as 16th. Right now runs about the 17th spot. He just lost the position to Rick Wilson, and Wilson's on the move as now he tries to pick off Wally Dallenbach.
And in the front group of cars, as everyone has stopped racing side by side for the moment, they've begun to close it all up now. A group of about 25 cars nose to tail.
Ken Schrader on the entrance of the corner now swings the Chevrolet up to the high side. Dale Earnhardt thought about looking to the inside there, but here comes Ernie Irvin now on a bid for third off turn 4.
Ernie took a look inside, elects to stay put where he is. It almost looked like Dover there for a minute, Barney. There were cars covering every inch of real estate in the turn, working wherever their car was best able to handle, down low, in the middle, up high. We've seen guys using the old Richard Petty groove here today. Joe Moore, not quite that story in your end of the speedway, at least not quite as pronounced as in turns 3 and 4.
They're really trying to stay single file coming to this end of the track, Eli. Once they come off the banking of turn 2, we see them start to drop down to the inside and try to make their passes, but usually going into the turn it is single file.
And here's a challenge for the second spot. Alan Kulwicki goes after Dale Earnhardt, but no one goes with him. He's going to lose some spots.
Kulwicki loses 1, now 2 positions as Jeff Gordon slides to the high side of the banking. Down low is the Ford of Alan Kulwicki. This is a battle for the 4th position as they come off the corner.
Alan Kulwicki getting a little test early to find out what that Ford can do, hanging out there by himself. He's going to find out in a hurry whether, no matter what make of car you're in, if you don't have a drafting partner, you're going to lose some ground. He starts sliding back a little bit as Jeff Gordon drives on the outside of him back into turn number 1. Jim Phillips, what are we looking at pit stops? I know the other day certainly they could go 125 miles without fuel because they did it in the qualifying races.
I just talked to Mike Beam, a crew chief for Bill Elliott. He said about 50 laps on the first stop. That's a very conservative range that they could probably go this afternoon, but probably around 50 for the cars that didn't stop a while ago.
And Eli, looking from our vantage point here in the tower, it's almost like a view from a helicopter. I don't think I've ever seen as many crew members in the first 30 laps of this race stand still. They are fascinated by what's going on that racetrack, the way the lead's been swapping back and forth, and guys that would be up there in first and second then suddenly drop back to 12th and 14th. It has been some race thus far.
Kind of like an exercise to see how long you can hold your breath also, because you don't know what's going to happen, where your driver is going to be. As you've seen, just get out of line, you'll go backwards. But at the same time, a lot of fellows who have gotten out of line have very systematically gone back to the front. Case in point, what happens now in turn 1.
Earnhardt once again dives down to the inside of the track all alone and blows by Kenny Schrader. Earnhardt's back up front.
Ernie Irvan tried to go with Earnhardt again, was not able to do it, so he'll have to stay in line in 3rd spot behind Schrader. Here's Alan Kulwicki dropping out of 5th spot, trying to pick up 4th from Jeff Gordon. He draws alongside.
Jeff Gordon takes it up to the high side. Kulwicki's 4 down to the inside of the racetrack. Nobody going along with him. The next car back in line is Kyle Petty's Pontiac, but Petty stays in line.
We're about to put 39 laps on the scoreboard as Kyle Petty has tested that Pontiac with just about everybody up in the top 10 all afternoon. Dives to the bottom of the racetrack and drives underneath Jeff Gordon to try and slide back in and move up into 5th position.
It was 18 cars in the lead pack. Now it is 20 as Jimmy Spencer and Davey Allison have caught Rick Wilson. So the top 20 separated then by some 3-car lengths from the next group of 7 cars. Meanwhile, Harry Gant, we told you, had made some unscheduled stops earlier. He's running 37th. Any further word from the Skoll pit, Winston?
On the second stop, the engine oil was not heating up to the proper running temperature, so they blocked off the oil radiators so it wouldn't get quite as much air in it, and he's just riding along there hoping to stay on the lead lap in the lead draft and to be there at the end.
We're watching one of the best Daytona 500s that we've seen in a long, long time in the early going. As we pointed out a moment ago, it looked like it was the last lap of the race, the way they were getting at it. They're 3 wide going off into turn 1.
Battling for the 5th position to the outside is Jeff Gordon in the middle of the sandwich with Sterling Marlin down low. Kyle Petty. They leave Marlin and leave Gordon and Petty battling side by side for 4th.
And down low, Michael Waltrip will get his Pontiac up along behind Kyle Petty's. Now he'll abandon that drafting effort, not able to quite close it up enough. He'll slide in behind Bobby Hillen and in front of Mark Martin.
Chevrolet and a Pontiac in the bid for the 4th position. Now make it the 5th position into turn number 3. Kyle Petty's Pontiac stays down low. Jeff Gordon Chevrolet up high as they exit 4.
Off the low groove, that's where Kyle Petty has been running so very well. He does it again as the Pontiac moves strongly back up into the 5th spot and now begins to bring the cars behind him back towards the front. One man, though, finds himself out of line, the Pennzoil machine. That's Michael Waltrip trying to get back in line in a close squeeze.
He's drifted back to the 9th position, make it 10th now as Mark Martin pulls up alongside. Michael Waltrip all alone down to the inside lane, trying his best to get back in line as they come off turn 2 and hit the back straightaway.
He and Mark Martin racing side by side for 9th and 10th as they come down the straightaway. 3 cars, then about 5 car lengths, then the 4th place car, then another 5 car lengths to Kyle Petty and the rest of the field.
Finally, Ricky Rudd opens up the door. Looked like Rudd was going to go along with Waltrip and try to draft to the inside of the racetrack, but Rudd opened up the hole, and now Michael Waltrip tucks back in line in turn number 4.
With 46 laps complete, Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Kenny Schrader rides in the number 2 position, 3rd right now. That is Alan Kulwicki. 4th is Ernie Irvan. Kyle Petty back to 5th. And 6th, the rookie driver, Jeff Gordon, hangs right in there. Sterling Marlin is being posted 7th. And Bobby Hillen Jr. in that Heilig Myers brand new race team this year of Junie Donlevy. They've really put together a good one, having a great run here at Daytona. Front 3 have pulled away by perhaps 60 or 70 feet over Kyle Petty, who now scoots up into 4th place. Ernie Irvan tries to latch onto the draft and come along with him. Jeff Gordon back there single file. Most of the racing right now up in the top 20 seems to be, for the moment, just single file, because a moment ago it looked like the front 4 was going to pull away, and all of a sudden, Joe Mora, everybody said, hey, we better tuck back in here instead of just riding door to door. The front 3 or 4 are going to leave us.
Everybody's staying kind of calm for a while. It seems that it must be kind of tough to stay in line for a long time. After a while, you've got to jump out. That's what Kyle Petty is trying right here from the 4th position, trying to move up on Alan Kulwicki, but again, he gets back in line in single file.
He will slip back in line in front of Ernie Irvan. Now a challenge for the lead. Here comes Ken Schrader and Alan Kulwicki down to the inside of Earnhardt.
2 Chevrolet side by side with a Ford helping out on the inside, and Ken Schrader will grab the lead. Now Kulwicki goes in a side-by-side bid with Dale Earnhardt for 2nd.
That's a good battle for 2nd spot that the Ford will win off the low side of the racetrack. Kulwicki in 2nd spot now as Ken Schrader, who led laps 31 through 38, is back in front again at lap number 49 after Dale Earnhardt led some 10 laps in that segment. They continue to swap that lead around. Let's set it for you a little further back. Barney took you to 8th spot, Bobby Hillen Jr. 9th is Mark Martin. 10th, Jeff Bodine. Michael Waltrip is 11th. Dale Jarrett, 12th. 13th is Bobby Labonte, or correct myself, 13th is Rick Wilson. 14th spot now is Bill Elliott with Ricky Rudd running in 15th. 16th is Wally Dallenbach Jr. Davey Allison is 17th. Lake Speed in 18th spot. 19th is the Jimmy Spencer car. 20th is Alan Sir Jr. In 21st, Rusty Wallace. We've not talked much about Rusty this afternoon. He sits middle of the pack in 21st. 22nd position will be Hutch Strickland. 23rd belongs to Terry Labonte. 24th now Brett Bodine with Rick Mast 25th. 26th, they will post the Derek Cope car. He's driving for Cale Yarborough Motorsports. 27th position will be the Mayflower colors for Chad Little. In 28th, it's Ted Musgrave. 29th, Joe Ruttman. And in 30th spot, they're posting Morgan Shepherd, who, of course, missed winning this Daytona 500 by just one spot a year ago. In 31st position, they will show Phil Parsons. 32nd is Bobby Labonte. Bobby Hamilton is 33rd. 34th now Jim Sauter. Darrell Waltrip is in 35th. 36th belongs to Kenny Wallace. Harry Gant is 37th. 38th place now is Jimmy Horton. And 39th, Dave Marcus. The other two cars that started are now in the garage.
And here comes quite a few of the cars peeling off the banking up in turn number 4 to make that first pit stop of the afternoon, and it will come under green flag conditions. Kenny Schrader comes down into the pits. Alan Kawicki, Dale Earnhardt's on pit road. Also Kyle Petty, Ernie Irvin, rookie driver Jeff Gordon. Bobby Hillen Jr. is in, so is the Jeff Bodine Budweiser Ford. Let's go down to Jim Phillips.
Bill Elliott brings his Ford in. Charles Wright and Scott Beam, new tire changers for the Junior Johnson team, go around to the right side. Bobby Hillen is in. Mike Waltrip is in. Brett Bodine is in. All these tires are going to be a 2-tire stop for all these teams on this end of pit road.
Dick Brooks.
Kyle Petty was in the same way with 2 tires. Ernie Irvin's in 2 tires. They did a little chassis adjustment on it. They got a tire rolling out across the racetrack here, but it didn't get hit. It made it all the way across. Alan Kawicki was in. Ken Schrader was in. They got 2 tires. Got the cars fueled up and back on the racetrack.
Winston Kelly.
2 Pontiacs on this end of pit road coming in, getting 2 tires and gasoline. Michael Waltrip and Rusty Wallace. Now Jimmy Spencer brings his Ford into the pits to the Bobby Allison crew. They go to work on the right side of the car. Rick Mast in for service. It'll be a 2-tire stop for Mast crew. Morgan Shepherd in for service, along with Joe Ruttman, Harry Gannon. Here comes the neon pink Ford Thunderbird of Bobby Hamilton. It'll be 2 tires and gasoline for all these drivers.
52 laps are on the scoreboard. We're watching green flag pit stops, and only a handful of cars have yet to come onto pit road from the Daytona International Speedway. This is MRN Radio.
Today's Daytona 500 by STP on MRN Radio is sponsored by STP Oil Treatment, Gas Treatment, Fuel Injector Cleaner, and Son of a Gun Protectant.
In the middle of green flag pit stops here at Daytona International Speedway, one man who is not unaccustomed to being in front at Daytona is currently showing the way, having yet to pit. That is Derek Cope, who is driving the Cale Yarborough Bojangles Chicken automobile. He leads after so many others have already led today. Jeff Gordon, Dale Jarrett, Dale Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, they have all led. So too Kenny Schrader, Jeff Bodine, and throughout these green flag pit stops, Rick Wilson and Hut Strickland have also led, as does, as we say, Derek Cope. We are working here under green. We have had 2 caution periods, one on lap 3 when Dick Trickle lost an engine, another on lap number 11 when problems forced the Jimmy Hensley car into the wall, but there are also some problems developing on pit road right now.
Yeah, let's check in with Dick Brooks.
Well, Ricky Rudd's sitting here. He started to take off after the pit stop, and then he had to stop. Ricky, what happened?
Dick, I'm not really sure. It broke something in the drive line leaving the pits. Don't really know what it is. It's just, it knocked us out of the race. They're just trying to get us back out for the points.
Well, they're feverishly working on the thing. He's just sitting in the car waiting. There's a belt that drives some of the systems off the rear end that's laying out on the racetrack. So they're like he pulled the rear end housing apart on it.
Well, you always think what a tough break it is for the driver to go out this early in the biggest race of the year, but you also have to feel for that crew. They work all winter long. They come down here and test and do everything they can, and then watch all their efforts as far as a win go out the window real early.
Let's remind everybody that Derek Cope pitted on lap number 13. He was one of the handful of cars. There were actually 6 cars that came in on lap 13 during that second caution period. Consequently, he is able to stay out on the racetrack now considerably longer than those that did not pit earlier. That's why he has inherited the lead and has yet to make a pit stop. Behind him is Darrell Waltrip. Darrell pitted on lap number 14, so fuel-wise, he is in the same situation. Jim Sauter is third. He also pitted on the 14th lap. Kenny Wallace is out there also at this point, being shown in 4th spot ahead of Harry Gant in 5th. All of those drivers on a bit of a different pit stop schedule than the majority of the field.
Harry Gant has really had some tough breaks all week long. They've been working on that car, trying to get it right. And I talked to Harry a little bit the other day about, have you ever come close to winning this race, the Daytona 500?
No, I don't think so. I think I got the white flag a couple times in the 4th of July race and got passed on the last lap, but never in the 500.
Is that race just that hard?
It's for me.
A lot of luck, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon. It's awful hard for me. I tell Leo the other day, I'm getting tired of coming down here for the last 5 years. I've come down, the car runs on 2 wheels. Either it's the 2 front ones at one time or the 2 rear, but I can get 4 up on the ground at the same time.
Harry Gant still looking to get all 4 wheels hooked into this racetrack, and he's still on the lead lap, having a good run out there, although they've had some problems with the car. And in this race, as we said, boy, anything can happen.
They had a fairly consistent push all week as well in that number 33 machine. Let's check back in on pit road.
Problem for one of the rookies in the race this afternoon. Kenny Wallace's car sounds a little bit sour as it comes by. I talked with Jeff Hammond. He said that they might have broken a valve spring on the Pontiac.
So far today, 9 different race leaders. The record is 15, set for the first time back in 1974. And at the pace we are going, 9 leaders in the first 59 laps of a 200-lap event. We could see that record go by the boards. Behind the cars that are shown as the race leaders, there's a pretty good draft underway from 5th place on back. That's the draft of cars heading up into turn 1 right now, led by Alan Kulwicki.
Kulwicki has that spot right ahead of the Dale Earnhardt car. Then it's Mark Martin next in line. They're joined by Kyle Petty, Jeff Bodine, Bobby Hillen, Michael Waltrip, Bill Elliott's there along with Ken Schrader.
And Schrader will be shown in the 12th position. These the cars that did make the green flag pit stop, running about a half a length of the back straightaway back from Schrader. In the 13th spot will be Ernie Irvin, Jeff Gordon, and Dale Jarrett.
Kyle Petty there in the battle for the 7th position. Looked like he wanted to take a look to the inside of Mark Martin on the entrance of turn number 3, but Martin slams it down to the inside of the racetrack and holds position.
It's really been hard to get a handle on who had the best car, because as we have talked about several times, there have been a lot of leaders in the early going, and I mean not just going from 2nd to 1st. Some of those cars have come from as far back as 14th to get up and lead a lap of this thing this afternoon, and not by pit stops either. I mean just by drafting, using the draft and the engine in that car. So we've got some strong cars right now from 5th place on back. Again, they're back to Joe Moore in turn 2.
Alan Kulwicki leads the pack still. They're shuffling up a little bit behind him, though, as Ken Schrader breaks out of line.
Schrader running in 12th, trying to grab 11th away from Bill Elliott. He's got no drafting help. There's nobody behind him, so he's going to have to fall back in line on the tail end of that group. Elliott running right behind Michael Waltrip.
Mark Martin tightens it up behind Dale Earnhardt. That'd be the battle for the 7th position as they shuffle into turn number 3. Also, one car will slide way up the banking. It's Jeff Bodine. Almost loses a position to Bobby Hillen.
Here come the cars back off turn number 4, while Darrell Waltrip, who did, again, remember, pit back on lap number 14, in for his pit stop now. So the drivers, Derek Cope, along with Darrell Waltrip, Harry Gant, Kenny Wallace, those who have not pitted here most recently, now beginning to get into that window of opportunity when they must come in for a pit stop. Derek Cope, you remember, a man who was given one great opportunity to grab a Daytona 500 by STP here in 1990 when he was running behind Dale Earnhardt, who came up about 1.5 miles shy of victory lane that afternoon. And one thing you've always got to remember and stress, Derek Cope was not really handed the win so much as that he was in 2nd place, available to take advantage of the opportunity that was given to him. Here's the Dirt Devil Pontiac now. Jeff Hammond and the crew awaiting Kenny Wallace on pit road. Let's cover that stop.
And they go around to the right side. It's a routine stop for Kenny Wallace and his crew, changing right side tires and filling it up with gasoline. And the pit board is out for Derek Cope.
Looking at 62 laps complete here at the Daytona International Speedway in the day's Daytona 500 by STP. And now the field is really pretty well strung out around here. And here comes the leader into the pits. Derek Cope will make his stop. Let's go to pit road.
Derek comes to a smooth stop here in the Bojangles colors. They go to work on the right side of the car, dumping in 2 cans of Unical gasoline. David Garber putting on the right rear tire. They're putting in a round of wedge, make that 1.5 rounds of wedge. The 2nd can of gasoline now being dumped in to Cale Yarborough Motorsports Ford Thunderbird. 2 tires and gasoline for Derek Cope's entry. The car is off and away, 21.5 seconds.
So as Derek Cope made his stop, Harry Gant takes the lead, but the battle now from 2nd on back is a hot one in turn 1.
Kyle Petty drops to the inside of the track, up alongside Alan Kulwicki he goes, as Kulwicki gives him plenty of racing room. Here's Bobby Hillen. He'll dive down under Kulwicki and try to make a run at Kyle Petty.
And meanwhile, Earnhardt has slid around all of those cars, so Earnhardt now leads that 2nd draft of cars behind the leaders who haven't made their pit stop yet. It's Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, Bobby Hillen, then Kulwicki and Mark Martin.
Jeff Bodine and Michael Waltrip in a bid back for the 7th 7th position as they enter turn number 3. Michael Waltrip's Pontiac all by himself down to the inside. Drafting help for Bodine up high. Waltrip still caught out low.
Dale Earnhardt is the new leader in the Daytona 500 by STP. Harry Gant has finally peeled off the racetrack to make his pit stop on lap number 66. So Earnhardt is the leader. Bobby Hillin Jr., what a superb run for that young man out of Midland, Texas, driving that teal-colored car for Junie Donlevy in the Heilig-Myers sponsorship. He runs in second. Kyle Petty now in third. A good, strong fourth-place run for Mark Martin, who has gotten the Valvoline Ford back up to fourth, ahead of Kenny Schrader. He has the Kodiak Chevrolet in fifth. Michael Waltrip now next in line. The Pennzoil Pontiac runs sixth, followed by Jeff Bodine, Bill Elliott, and then Ernie Irvin. Meanwhile, Dave Marcus's car is in the garage. Winston Kelly?
Dave Marcus is sitting in his car just behind pit wall. All kind of work going on the left side of the car, so we don't have an opportunity to get to Dave, but they've got transmission problems. The car has slipped out of gear. They can't get it into any gear, so they're trying to either get it stuck into fourth gear or they'll change the transmission on Dave Marcus Chevrolet.
So that's a story on Dave Marcus. With 68 laps on the board, they continue to wind around in the Daytona 500 here this afternoon. And thus far, just about what everyone's worst nightmare could have been was that Dale Earnhardt indeed was as strong as he has appeared to be all speed weeks thus far, as Earnhardt takes him back up into turn 3 and 4. The surprising run, I won't say it's all that surprising in a way, though, is Bobby Hillin Jr. He has done such a masterful job all afternoon to work the draft and keep that car right up there in the top 4 or 5. I don't think he's been any further back than about 8th or 9th all afternoon, but each time he's been able to work his way right back to the front of the pack.
I asked Bobby yesterday, do you still need a good run to get that respect in the garage area?
Well, you know, anytime you run really well, and especially on a highly visible race like this, it's going to help, you know. I've done things like driving Davy's car last year that really helped, and I've been in situations that have hurt, and it's just kind of you kind of bounce around a little bit. And when you start the sport with no experience like I did and just race here in this sport, you make some mistakes, and like I say, you just have to overcome it, and maybe I'll pay my dues. You never know.
Well, he'll know it for sure now as the crowd rises to watch as he goes for the lead. Hillin trying to grab the lead from Earnhardt here at Daytona.
And he's bit off a big chunk. Let's see if he could chew it. He will. He drafts right to the bottom of the racetrack. Earnhardt gives him a little breathing room, and he had the lead for a moment. Here comes Dale right back on him as they work to turn 1.
Car's now dead even at the end of the front straightaway, climbing the 31-degree banking of turn number 1. The Heilig-Myers Ford again gets out in front, and Lisa knows that in front. Earnhardt pulls back even on the outside lane, and side by side they make their way off turn 2.
And each has drafting help. Michael Waltrip is down behind Hillin on the inside. Up on the outside is Ken Schrader behind Dale Earnhardt. Now Michael Waltrip abandons ship, jumps into the outside lane of cars.
A couple of Chevrolets gang up on the Bobby Hillin car as they shuffle to the outside of the banking. Now no one tags along with Hillin. Here comes Mark Martin to give him some drafting help as they exit turn 4.
So Bobby Hillin, who won at Talladega back in 1986, gets shuffled back just a bit. He's now running in third spot. Dick Brooks used to drive for that Junie Donlevy team, and I'll tell you, if anybody doesn't root for themselves, they're probably rooting for Junie Donlevy. He's probably the most popular guy in the garage area week in and week out.
Well, that's true, Eli. He's a good fellow, a good guy to drive for. I drove that car for 6 years off and on, and had some awful good runs with it. We led the races here a lot. We led the races a lot of places a lot of times. Just never could make it happen all day long, you know. But these guys are running awful good, and Hillin is a good, smooth race driver. A little unexpected that he's up this close this front this quick, but he'll race with them boys. Look like pretty good.
He's doing awfully well, having started here in a good, strong showing, and now works his way back towards the front. He went from 9th place to the front, now settles down in 3rd, single file, with the exception of a couple of cars that still dart their way around some race traffic.
76 laps complete. We've had a couple of cautions this afternoon. Dick Trickle lost an engine that brought out the first caution, and a tire cut down on Jimmy Hensley's car, put him in the wall, and other than that, we have been caution-free. Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Riding in the number 2 spot is still Kenny Schrader, and Bobby Hillin Jr. rides 3rd. From the Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio.
78 laps on the board here at Daytona International Speedway. The Daytona 500 by STP currently being shown with Kenny Schrader battling with Dale Earnhardt. They swap the lead around again as Schrader goes to the point here at lap number 78. Ricky Rudd is back on the racetrack after his problems of earlier. He talked about the belt and the driveline problems. He is 24 laps down, being posted in 39th position, but back on the racetrack nevertheless. Things aren't quite as rosy, though, for Alan Kulwicki. Ricky, the car is sounding rough down there on the racetrack. Let's get an update from the pitch.
Well, it is. Crew's kind of talking about what they can do about it. They're just trying to get their heads together a little bit. They've lost a cylinder on the car, and they, of course, don't know what caused it or what they can do about it. So I expect they'll just let it run until either something happens or until they get a chance to come in again.
79 laps are up on the scoreboard. We talked about the great run that Bobby Hillen Jr. is having in the Heilig Myers furniture car here this afternoon. Let's see if we can get a report from his pit.
We're in the pits with Judy Donlevy, the car owner for Bobby Hillen. Judy, you started at 9th place. You're up to 3rd right now. The car really looks good.
Yeah, Bob is really doing a good job with it. We've been pretty quick down here testing, and he's driving it like he drove it in testing, so he's running pretty good.
Crew got a little excited a while ago when he got the lead. Now, that's the first time that Bobby Hillen had led a lap in 5 years in Winston Cup racing when he led lap 71.
Eli, I tell you the thing that a lot of folks are going to be shocked at this year. They're talking about Bobby Hillen. We've been talking about Rick Wilson and Phil Parsons, the guys that have been out of the business at a given time. Bobby Hillen set out for quite a period in Winston Cup racing, and, of course, so did Bobby Hillen along with some of the other guys that have come back this year. And as we've talked a couple of times, when you're a player in this business at a given time, you have been in a competitive car, you're out of it, like Kyle Petty said, and all of a sudden you're sitting home listening to it, think you may never get back in it. He says if you ever get a second chance, you're going to make every effort to really stay there as long as you can, and these guys are doing it right now.
They are doing that, and there's 3 of the nicest guys in the business. Bobby Hillen, Rick Wilson, Phil Parsons, always have time to spend with you, talk and share a story or two. Bobby Hillen's been laughing and smiling all week. His wife Kim has had a baby a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and he said there's extra responsibility now being a father, and he said I'm just going to get out there and show folks that I deserve to be here and can drive a race car. And of course we saw that last year, as Bobby said in that little interview we heard before. Robert Yates just doesn't put anybody in his race cars, and when they needed a sub for Davey Allison last year, the call went out to Bobby Hillen. He's got some heat on him, though, as he works up into turn number 3. Big black number 3 is right behind him.
Dale Earnhardt looked to the inside, but now the car slides up the banking as Bobby Hillen Jr.'s Ford leads through the corner. Now the Ford of Jeff Bodine challenges Earnhardt for second.
And I got a feeling that Earnhardt is just testing everybody out there in case that car stays together all day long. He's going to be the man to beat. A couple of times we've seen Earnhardt drop back. He drops back again, but this time, here he comes. To the bottom of the racetrack goes Dale Earnhardt in turn 1, and he's after the lead.
Earnhardt loves it down on the bottom side of the track. That's where he makes his moves, and here he goes again to the inside and right by Bobby Hillen Jr. Earnhardt, Hillen in second. Then it's Jeff Bodine third, Ken Schrader fourth, and a side-by-side battle for fifth.
That's Kyle Petty inside of Michael Waltrip. Bill Elliott is in the outside lane. He's not going to let Kyle get back in line, so Elliott will go up to the 6th spot. Kyle will now slide in line 7th in front of Dale Jarrett.
Tucks in line as they enter the corner. Now the scramble will be for the 4th position. Michael Waltrip's yellow Pontiac to the inside of Ken Schrader's white Chevrolet. They'll head side by side off the corner for 4th.
Michael Waltrip's very strong. Now remember, he was leading this race last year with 30 laps to go. You might remember that from last February. And with 10 laps remaining last year, Michael was riding in the lead 3-car draft before he lost an engine with those 10 laps remaining. So as he settles in single file now in 4th spot, not really a surprise to see the Pennzoil Pontiac up there.
Well, I mentioned it to him the other day in the garage. I said, a lot of folks have probably forgotten that a couple of times you almost won the Daytona 500.
Yeah, and whether anybody else remembers or not, I do, and that means a lot to me, and it makes me really look forward to coming down here both February and July. We've had some good runs in July as well, so hopefully we'll have a good steady next 3 or 4 days. They're real important. We need a good result in the 125 just so we know our setup is in the ballpark, and then we'll head out of there and try to do a little something on Saturday to make up for last year's disaster. And then I think Sunday, with 7 or 8 laps to go last year, we were running second, had a shot to win, and it got away from us. So hopefully we can erase all those bad things in 92 and make them all good in 93.
Well, that's exactly what he's doing here this afternoon. Very determined Michael Waltrip. Had a good attitude the other day. We talked to him, laughing and joking. The crew seems really upbeat, and I think it's going to be a good year for Michael. He's having an outstanding run as he heads up to Alan Bestwick in turn 3.
Leader Dale Earnhardt about to encounter some lap traffic for one of the first times today. The Chad Little car and the Kenny Wallace machine will go down to the inside.
Dale Earnhardt will swing it up to the high side of the banking. Bobby Hillen goes along with him. The 2 slower cars will swing down to the inside of the racetrack. The lead draft comes off 4 high.
18 cars still tied tightly together in that lead draft. Jeff Bodine, the man on the move now, as he works himself up on the rear deck of the Dale Earnhardt car. Still 34 cars on the lead lap and only 3 cars in the garage area. Dick Trickle, Jimmy Hensley, and Dave Marcus. One story that I'll update you on. After Jeff Gordon led lap number 1 and again lap number 22, we've not said much about the young man from Indiana. He's running in 19th spot right now. Let's see if we can get an update on that story on pit road.
I talked to his crew chief, Ray Evernham. He said that the car is extremely tight right now. That means that it does not want to turn good in the corners, and when you only have about 440 horsepower to push these machines around, when the car does not want to turn, it takes a lot more horsepower to push it. That's the reason he's falling back. They hope when they get a pit stop, they'll put a strip or two of tape across the grill section that will close that opening up a little bit, and it will make the car a little bit looser or more loose and help him get around the racetrack.
We got 11 cars up in the lead draft, nose to tail, but that second draft heading over to Joe Moore, Ernie Irvin's got his hands full back there for that spot.
Irvin's got the inside line, trying to move ahead, but he's going the wrong way. Right behind him, a couple of lap cars. Kenny Wallace is there, and some of the cars on the lead lap. Jimmy Spencer and Hunt Strickland right behind.
Those cars had been right up on the back bumper of the front draft, but all that racing side by side has allowed the front 11 cars to get away.
Now Ernie Irvin has more trouble on the inside of the racetrack. The lap car of Kenny Wallace was there, putting Ernie Irvin on the inside of the racetrack, and the rest of that draft swings around to the outside and puts Irvin all the way to the back.
We may get a comment or two from Tony Glover down in that Kodak pit here in just a moment or so. As a matter of fact, here comes Ernie off the racetrack right now. So as the fellas in the turns were telling you something not quite right on the Kodak film Chevrolet. Lap number 90, Ernie is in for a pit stop. We'll get an update from the pit lane here. He came in on lap number 50, so 40 laps after the initial stop, Ernie Irvin is in again. Let's go to Dick Brooks.
Well, they're going to do a tire change on the car. They made a chassis change on it earlier on the first pit stop. They're going to do all 4 tires this time. They only changed right sides last time. I don't see any adjustments made on the car at all. They're got the right side done, the left side's loose, and they're going to, of course, fill it up with fuel at the same time. We'll find out why he came in a little bit early.
Ernie Irvin's car about to be dropped off the jack and go back onto the speedway. A couple of times he's been up in the lead pack, but a couple of times he's fallen back and not been able to get back up there also. So the first part of the Daytona 500 by STP is not going to Ernie Irvin and the team's liking at all. 91 laps are on the scoreboard. A little bit later on in today's Daytona 500 broadcast, we'll announce the Western Auto NASCAR Mechanic of the Race Award. Western Auto is the official auto parts and service store of NASCAR and is proud to salute today's top NASCAR mechanic with $1,000.
We're also proud to salute some other radio stations joining us for the first time today on our broadcast of the Daytona 500. That includes in Monroe, Louisiana, KMLB Radio. In Grand Rapids, Michigan, WBYI. KWTO in Springfield, Missouri. In Tupelo, Mississippi, WTUP is on board. In Lebanon, New Hampshire, WTSL Radio. And in Buffalo, New York, WWKB. Some famous call letters there joining us today on our coverage of the Daytona 500 by STP. 93 laps are complete. We're approaching halfway here at the Daytona 500 by STP. 200 laps on this 2.5-mile racetrack equals the 500-mile distance. Of course, the Unocal Challenge still up for grabs today. We told you about that earlier in the broadcast. Should Kyle Petty win from the pole, an additional $22,800 could be his. He's still running in third. Earnhardt's the leader. Jeff Bodine second. Then Kyle Petty ahead of Bobby Hillin Jr. and Ken Schrader. Meanwhile, on pit road, let's get a thought or two from Tony Glover, the crew chief on Ernie Irvin's car. Remember, Ernie came in for that pit stop some 4 laps ago at lap 90. Dick?
Ernie was slowing down a little bit, and he brought him in and changed tires. What happened?
We had a right rear going down, and, luckily he failed it and got the thing in here so we could fix it. I believe we'll be okay.
Well, they think it's going to be okay, and the right rear was going flat on it.
So that's the update from the pit lane as work and attention is riveted upon all of these race cars. I'll tell you, in a race like this, Barney, too, with very few caution periods, just 2 very quick caution periods, now as we near halfway, it really makes strategy a major factor. It also puts a premium on pit crew work because if things don't change, as stable as these cars are, it's going to be who's in and who's out of pit road here very, very quickly. That could be the story this afternoon.
Boy, it's a whole lot easier to gain 2 positions or move up a couple of notches lose by the quick pit stop than it is to do it out there in traffic the way things are going here this afternoon. Good battle door to door out of turn number 2. That's for second place, sweeping down the backstretch.
Kyle Petty and Bobby Hillen drop down to the inside of Jeff Bodine, trying to go by not only Bodine, but pull up alongside leader Dale Earnhardt. Kyle is by Jeff. He's drawing up on Earnhardt.
Kyle Petty's black and Dayglow Pontiac tucks down to the inside of the racetrack. Drafting help from Bobby Hillen. Up high is Dale Earnhardt in his black Chevrolet. And Petty will dust him off on the exit of 4.
So Kyle Petty goes to the front here at lap number 96. Kyle was telling me yesterday that he drafts pretty well with the Fords, although in his testing runs, he would like to find Bill Elliott directly in front of him. He said, for some reason, I seem to draft best when Bill Elliott is directly in front of me and I'm running behind him. In this instance, he just ran in front of Bobby Hillen, then left Hillen behind as he swept around Dale Earnhardt. That is the 23rd lead change among 11 drivers here at Daytona this afternoon. Not some bad numbers. We are yet to reach halfway in the 500. Kyle Petty is back up in turn 3.
Dale Earnhardt is second. Jeff Bodine is third. Then side by side for fourth, Brett Bodine and Hillen.
Brett Bodine puts the green 4 to the inside of Bobby Hillen. Side by side through the middle of the corner. Still side by side as they approach the exit of turn 4. That's the way they go down the short straightaway.
Boy, we have had all the racing we could stand here this afternoon since they put them under green. That battle for fourth place, still a good one. Down to the bottom of the racetrack comes Brett Bodine. Kind of gets a run and go. Comes down off the banking a little bit. Tries to get the car heading downhill, so to speak. They're still door-to-door in turn 1.
Bodine on the inside, Bobby Hillen on the outside. Car similarly colored, so it's almost difficult to see them apart. It's like one big car coming through the turn. This time Hillen goes high in the banking, Bodine down low, but they're still dead even as they exit turn 2.
Now both will pick up some drafting help. Rusty Wallace will drop down behind Brett Bodine just for a moment. Now he darts back into the outside line of traffic. Meanwhile, Jeff Bodine, running in third place, ducks down to the inside to try and help his brother.
They'll go side by side as they enter the corner. The green Ford of Brett Bodine, the teal Ford of Bobby Hillen Jr. side by side with Rusty Wallace trying to help out Bodine on the inside.
Rusty Wallace, we've not talked much about his Pontiac, but he's now very much in the mix as Kyle Petty leads the 500 back to the stripe. Can this be a championship year for you, Kyle?
I hope so. You know, that's what we came down here looking for. We didn't come to win the Daytona 500 and to set on a pole and that type deal. We came down here to start off our season on a high note and to get going towards a championship. I was asked last night, would you rather win the Daytona 500 or a championship? And I look at the Daytona 500 as a small battle within the championship being a major war, and we'd like to win the war instead of the battle.
So Kyle Petty, with that explanation, leads
Trouble
the 500.
On the back straightaway for Bill Elliott. The Budweiser Ford begins smoking out from under the hood. Elliott is off the pace in turn 3.
Tough break for Bill Elliott. The Budweiser Ford on the low side of the racetrack as the leaders lap another of the high-running Fords, Alan Kulwicki, whose engine problems we detailed for you earlier. Here comes Bill Elliott on lap number 99, one lap shy of halfway. A lot of smoke behind the Budweiser Ford. Barney, tough break here early in the season for Junior and the boys.
Boy, Mike Beam, the crew chief, thought they had a good chance to win this thing today, and they had been right up in the top 3 or 4 all afternoon. Now there's trouble. That smoke does not look good. Let's go to the pits.
Well, they first did change the left side tires. There's a lot of oil. You can smell the oil. The car's not hitting all 8 cylinders. Smoke's coming out of both exhaust pipes. It looks as though it could have burned a piston, Barney, but that's what it looks like from here.
So they're still taking a look at that car. Whether they can get him back in the race or not will remain to be seen, but certainly he is not going to win the Daytona 500 here this afternoon as the hood goes up on the Budweiser Ford. Well, almost the top 15 cars decide to come out of the throttle out of turn number 4 and hit pit road at the same time. Let's cover some of those stops. Dick Brooks.
Well, Kyle Petty was the first one in at this end. They're going to do 4 tires on his car. They got the Dale Jarrett's in. They're going to do 4 tires there. Also, Ken Schrader at this end. 4 tires planned for his car. They'll fill them up and get them going. One thing that could happen is Ernie Irvin, when he came in, he made a schedule about 10 laps out of sequence, but he put on 4 tires and made up a lot of time on them. When he come back out on the racetrack, he was about 6 seconds behind. When they all pitted, he was only 2 seconds behind. So when they go back out on the racetrack, he's going to be out front in pretty good shape, all caught up on pit stops.
Jim Phillips.
Bobby Devani was in for his routine stop. Bobby Hillen in for a stop. Jeff Bodine was in. He got left side tires this time on his machine. He's back on the speedway. Brett Bodine is in. Bill Elliott continues to sit on the pit lane. The engine has been shut off on the Budweiser Ford, and they have a water hose. They're trying to cool down the cooling system on the car. It looks like it's going to be a long day for Bill Elliott as Jimmy Spencer leaves the pit lane after his service.
Winston Kelly.
There's 2 tires and gasoline for most everybody on this end of pit road, including Rusty Wallace. Bobby Hamilton came in, got 2 tires and gasoline, along with Morgan Shepherd and Ted Musgrave. The Rick Wilson car driving the STP Pontiac this year got 4 tires and gasoline. Al Unser Jr. in the Valvoline entry. He gets 2 right side tires and gasoline on lap 103. Now Rick Mast brings the Skoll forward to the attention of the crew. They'll go to work on the right side of the car. Be 2 tires and a 4-tire stop for Rick Mast.
And while one of Junior Johnson's cars sits on pit road with an engine problem, the other is leading the race with Hut Strickland aboard the McDonald's car. We'll be right back. From the Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio.
At Daytona International Speedway, in the middle of the series of green flag pit stops, here comes Hut Strickland. The McDonald's Ford is on pit road. This, again, routine stops for him, so he will hand over the lead again to Derek Cope, who led here earlier. Remember, Derek Cope, along with a few others, pitted initially back way on lap 13, so they are off the routine pit stop sequencing just a bit. But once everybody gets back around to where they should be, Jeff Bodine, who is currently 5th, is leading this event, or will be at that point once pit stop's complete. Behind him, you've got Dale Earnhardt battling with Ernie Irvin. You've got Jimmy Spencer in the mix as well as these green flag pit stops continue.
Right now we're looking at 107 laps complete here in the Daytona 500 by STP. Some of the best racing on the Speedway. A moment ago when they came out of the pits together, some great pit work to put these 4 cars together to begin with in the form of Jeff Bodine and Rusty Wallace locked up right there together with Morgan Shepherd and Kyle Petty all heading over to turn 2.
And Rusty's on the move, diving down to the inside of Jeff Bodine. Jeff swings wide off the corner. Rusty is there on the inside, and right behind him, it's Brett Bodine and Morgan Shepherd stacked up double wide.
And this would be for 4th and 5th between Rusty and Jeff Bodine as they come down the back straightaway. No drafting help for Rusty on the inside. He'll have to pull back up outside behind Jeff.
Rusty Wallace tucks in line behind Jeff Bodine. Some slower traffic ahead, so all 4 cars now swing up to the top of the banking, but the red Ford of Jeff Bodine will lead off turn 4, that draft.
Again, he's leading that draft, as Fred Armstrong says. That is in 4th position. The race leader, who started back in 35th, is Derek Cope, the Bojangles chicken machine, currently working its way towards the front. He's been there during the sequencing of pit stops. Let's go to the garage area.
Bill Elliott just climbing out of the car. Bill, in early afternoon, what happened?
Well, for this Budweiser Amoco race team, we kind of had another short Daytona 500. It's, you know, we ran well all day long, and I wasn't really trying to abuse the car. And, you know, I was running pretty hard there at the first, but then when I got in that pack there, once we made our pit stops, I was just kind of running along there trying to bide my time. And all of a sudden, well, I got a lot of oil on the windshield, and I really couldn't race anybody because I couldn't see that well. So I was just riding along there, and all of a sudden it started running a bunch of temperature, and that was it.
You've been up there jostling with the lead with all the drivers up front. Can you tell who's got the strongest car?
Well, it's hard to really tell. You know, Earnhardt's awful good, and I think he's kind of playing with them guys, but we'll wait and see.
2-time winner of the Daytona 500, Bill Elliott, out this afternoon.
And a tough break for him. 109 laps are on the scoreboard. Again, as they swing around here with some of the drivers at the front of the pack, their pit stop out of sequence a little bit as they continue to move around. We were just past the halfway point, and a moment ago, Davey Allison was on pit road. Dick Brooks, what's the story there?
Well, they just changed right side tires on it. Didn't like what he had, so they came in and changed right side. They checked over the left side and said didn't need him and let him go.
So Derek Cope is still leading. Harry Gant rides the number 2 position. Jim Sauter is currently being posted 3rd, and then from there back, the other cars from 4th on back have made their pit stop and are back on the speedway.
Dave Marcus is back on the racetrack after an extended stay in the garage area. He's 38 laps down, being shown in 39th spot right now, but good to have Dave back on the racetrack. Harry Gant continues to lead the Daytona 500 by STP, but he has got some company closing in a hurry in turn 2.
Kyle Petty is there, less than 2 car lengths behind him, followed by Jeff Bodine. He's running 3rd. Then it's Earnhardt in 4th, and side by side for 5th.
Kyle Petty tries to move to the outside. Harry Gant sees him coming, just kind of drops down to the inside, and Kyle Petty powers by into the lead with Jeff Bodine 2nd, Earnhardt 3rd, then Rusty Wallace and Brett Bodine.
Gant will drop back into the 4th position. Now he loses that as Rusty Wallace goes up high. A couple of other cars pass him and put Gant all the way to the back of that draft. Now Kyle Petty leads off turn 4.
That battle continues for the lead right in the middle of the backstretch.
Kyle Petty leading Dale Earnhardt by about a bumper. Then it's a couple of car lengths back to 3rd place, Jeff Bodine.
Pontiac, Chevrolet, and Ford 1, 2, and 3, and all 3 drop down to the inside of the racetrack. No room for Dale Earnhardt to make any moves as Kyle Petty's Pontiac pulls right down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Here they come back out of turn number 4 to the stripe. It'll be lap 116 going up on the board this time. Kyle has that car length edge on Dale Earnhardt. 4 or 5 car lengths back to Jeff Bodine. Then the double file running begins again as Rusty Wallace works there. He's to the inside of one car. Double file all the way back to those 6 machines.
Rusty goes down to the inside of the lap car of Phil Parsons. Brett Bodine goes with him there. The only one on the lead lap left in the outside lane is Morgan Shepherd. He's trying to get in the line that's moving ahead.
Rusty Wallace will run in the 4th spot. Brett Bodine will now move up to 5th. 6th will be Mark Martin, who is to the inside of Morgan Shepherd. Now Martin gets hung behind the Ernie Irvin car, so Shepherd will race there on the outside behind Phil Parsons.
Mark Martin goes along the inside of Davey Allison's lap car and now begins to move forward to the inside of Morgan Shepherd. He'll pick up the draft from Ernie Irvin down to the low side.
And this is going to be a segment of the Daytona 500 by STP here this afternoon where we find out just how strong some of the cars that have been a little further back in the pack all day long. For the most part, the top 20 have been for nose to tail, maybe 10 or 12 car lengths between them. But after that round of green flag pit stops a moment ago, a lot of those cars, Joe Moore, were way back in the field, and now they're trying to chase down the front 2 over in turn 2.
Trying to close that draft in once again. Now they've got by some of the lap traffic. There's a lot of holes among that front 15 cars or so. You remember just a couple of laps ago, they were all nose to tail. I imagine within the next 10 laps, they'll all gather back up again.
For now, Kyle Petty and Dale Earnhardt are spreading the gap on 3rd place Jeff Bodine.
Making about 10 car lengths now as they enter turn number 3, and Kyle Petty and Dale Earnhardt take their machines right down to the inside once again. They'll open it up as Jeff Bodine slides up the banking to about 12 car lengths.
Average speed 168.658 miles an hour here at lap number 117. We'll get the interval for you between 2nd place Dale Earnhardt, 3rd place Jeff Bodine, almost a full second. It is 9/10 of a second from 2nd place back to 3rd. Let's take you a little further back in the rundown because now that these pit stops have concluded and with just 80 laps remaining and as quickly as this race has been taken off, let's give you a quick rundown. Kyle Petty leads, Dale Earnhardt is 2nd, Jeff Bodine is 3rd, Rusty Wallace 4th, Brett Bodine is 5th, 6th is Mark Martin, Ernie Irvin runs in 7th, Morgan Shepherd is 8th. 9th spot now, they'll post Ted Musgrave. That car has been working its way to the front. 10th belongs to Dale Jarrett. 11th now is the automobile of Hutch Strickland. In 12th spot, Ken Schrader. 13th place, they'll post Jimmy Spencer driving for Bobby Allison here in 93. 14th is Rick Mast. Wally Dallenbach Jr. is 15th. And again, all of these cars are running on the lead lap. 16th place now, they'll post the number 8 automobile. That's Sterling Marlin. 17th belongs to Michael Waltrip. 18th is Rick Wilson. 19th, Jeff Gordon. And 20th spot is Lake Speed. In 21st, Bobby Hamilton. 22nd is Al Unser Jr. 23rd, Terry Labonte. 24th is Joe Ruttman. And again, still on the lead lap. 25th is Darrell Waltrip. 26th is Derek Cope. And 27th is Bobby Labonte. 1 lap down in 28th is Harry Gant. Also now on the lead lap, I omitted Bobby Hillen Jr., so let's retrace that and put Bobby Hillen Jr. on the lead lap. 30th position goes to the automobile that's being driven by Phil Parsons. 31st is Davey Allison, who just makes yet another pit stop here seconds ago. 32nd position will be Jim Sauter. 33rd, Kenny Wallace. 34th place will be the automobile of Alan Kulwicki with its cylinder problem in the engine. 35th now is Chad Little. 36th is Jimmy Horton. And also on the racetrack, but many, many laps down, are Ricky Rudd and Dave Marcus after their mechanical problems of earlier today. Kyle Petty pitted on lap number 100. He is in again on lap 125 after handing the lead over to Dale Earnhardt. Dick Brooks.
Well, they got a problem with a gas can here. Felix is standing there. Felix, tell us what happened.
On the last pit stop, a regular gas guy got hurt in an accident, and we had to use a young kid from the race shop. His legs were too short. He couldn't get over the wall to get the second can in.
Well, that's it. They only got 1 can of gas in, so they're getting some help from some of the other crews, and now they've got him full of fuel this time.
Boy, that can be a costly pit stop for Kyle Petty the way he had been running here this afternoon, but he's still got plenty of time to overcome how much he's going to lose on pit road for this unscheduled stop.
Dick, it looked like one of the fellows from the Hooters team, from Alan Kulwicki's team that had gone down there. It was tough for us to tell exactly. Was that accurate, or was it somebody else that helped out there?
Yeah, they brought a couple of Hooters people down here, and also they used the Hooters gas cans because he was used to them, and they had them here already full, so they just used their people and fueled the car up for him.
Well, you don't see that in any other sport, do you, in the world? You don't see guys lending pitchers or quarterbacks or anything else on a given sporting event, except here in NASCAR racing. And that's one of the elements that makes the sport so very special. 127 laps on the board of 200 here this afternoon.
And Dale Earnhardt looks like if he can keep it all together, he's got the best shot he might have had in a long, long time to get his first Daytona 500. I talked with him a little bit the other day, and I said, you've been asked this 100 times, but it has to stick in your craw a little bit that this one race here, the 500, has got away from you all these years.
Well, it gets tougher each year, Barney, to come down here and not win the Daytona 500. We've had so many good chances and came so close, but our team's really pumped up this year, and I feel good about the way we ran, and the Busch Clash went great for us, and the qualifying race we won, and everybody's pumped up and got a good chance of winning this race. Feel good about it, so we're going to take it as another race. Go in here and start off and try to run good all day and be there, and if you round it in and got a chance, you'll have a chance at winning it. So we've been in all kinds of situations in this race, up front or in the pack or wherever, and I've seen guys win it on gas miles. I've seen guys win it because I cut a tire down or other guys wreck or have problems. So anything can happen in this race, and it usually does. So we want to just try to get in there and take it as another race. We want to come out of here with 185 points toward that championship and win the Daytona 500, which is all the marbles.
And that's what Dale Earnhardt's going for here this afternoon. He's had the race in his hand, at least 2 or 3 times that I can remember in the last 5 years. And as he talked about the cut tire that ran out of fuel one time, everything's got to fall into place, and he made that very clear after we cut the tape recorder off when we were sitting back there. He said
trouble here on the main straightaway as one car gets somewhat airborne but quickly slams to the ground. Sterling Marlin's car, the Ray Bestis machine, goes sliding through the infield grass. He will stay off of the Daytona logo here at the start-finish line area, get the car slowed, and now continues away, but caution is on the speedway. It comes out for the 3rd time on lap number 129. It looked like there might have been just the least little bit of contact as Sterling came out of turn number 4. We'll have to get a word down on the pit lane and find out what the Ray Bestis crew can tell us. But when the car got sideways, the rear end came up in the air, very much like happened to Tim Fedewa yesterday during the Goodies 300, but the car immediately slammed right back down onto the turf with those fins and wings along the roof line doing the job they were designed to. The car just went right back down to the turf, and now at lap number 129, caution for the 3rd time this afternoon.
And we're going to see everybody in the pits here in just a minute. We'll take a quick break and we'll cover those pit stops. We are under caution, and this will be the 3rd one this afternoon, and it was a scary one. Wally Dallenbach apparently brushed the wall up in turn number 4. Sterling Marlin made an evasive move to keep from running into him, and in doing so, the car spun around, come up off the racetrack there, and kind of floated along for maybe a couple of 100 feet before the spoilers, and everything put the car right back down on the asphalt, and he took quite a ride down through the tri-oval here. Now here comes the front of the field to make those scheduled pit stops. It's going to be a break for a lot of drivers, this caution coming out. Ernie Irvan is in, Dale Earnhardt is in, Dale Jarrett's in, Kenny Schrader. Let's go to Jim Phillips.
Dale Earnhardt, the leader, is in the pits, right side tires. This time it's going to be a 4-tire change for Dale Earnhardt. Andy Petrie and Will Lynn doing the work. Jeff Gordon is in for tires and gasoline. Lake Speed, Darrell Waltrip peels into his pit. Brett Bodine is in. Jeff Bodine is in on this end of pit road.
Dick Brooks.
Well, I got Dale Jarrett and Ernie Irvan got in. They're doing 4 tires on those cars, filling them up. Kyle Petty just now came in. Sometimes you get the break, sometimes you don't. He stayed in the same lap when he had to pit a few minutes ago for fuel. So then this will allow him to get right back in the race again, as it did with Ernie Irvan. Ernie Irvan was a little bit out of sequence, about 10 or 12 laps out of sequence. That'll get him caught back up again, so those cars are in good shape. Alan Kawicki's in there trying to find what's missing on his car. They've got a little tester that Champion Spark Plugs brought up there to him to check the wires. They stick a little deal on each wire and see which one's firing or not. So if it is a plug wire or plug or something, they can find it and replace it. Davey Allison's been in a couple times with problems on the front end of the car. He says the car doesn't drive right. He thought he had a right front going down. He changed it. Nothing wrong with it. Then he thought, well, maybe it's a left front, so he changed it earlier, and nothing wrong with it. Now they got the hood up on it, seeing if there's anything loose in there. Can't find anything wrong with that. Ken Schrader was in. Ricky Rudd's going to be in to get himself fueled up.
And let's get a quick report from Winston Kelly.
Routine stops on this end of pit road. Jimmy Spencer, Derek Cope, Rusty Wallace, Rick Wilson, Bobby Hamilton, Rick Mast, Morgan Shepard, and Ted Musgrave getting 4 tires and gasoline. Joe Ruttman in just before this caution flag. He's got a little bit of damage to his engine. Seems like he's lost a cylinder. Now the pit boards go out for Harry Gant, Jim Slaughter, Dave Marcus, Jimmy Horton. The drivers all 1 or more laps down coming in for service.
And the race off pit road was won by Dale Earnhardt. Dale Jarrett looks like he's going to line up right behind him, and then Ernie Irvan.
Currently, Dale Earnhardt leads with Dale Jarrett second. The caution really a big break for Ernie Irvan, now back on sequence with everyone else running in third. Jeff Bodine is fourth, and Kenny Schrader is fifth. In the garage area, Dick Trickle, Jimmy Hensley, Bill Elliott, and now Joe Ruttman's car has gone behind the wall, though not to the garage. They are working just behind pit road near the Unocal station, where they are trying to make repairs there. Also, we saw the hood up during the last pit stop on the Pennzoil Pontiac. Michael Waltrip was very close to the Sterling Marlin and Wally Dallenbach cars just moments prior to that caution period. Let's get an update down there from Winston Kelly.
He did have a little bit of front-end damage. It had been in the nose cone on the Pontiac. They beat it back out. The crew does not feel like it'll affect the handling on the Pennzoil car. Michael Waltrip back on the track.
We're getting ready to go back to green. 133 laps are on the scoreboard. And Kyle Petty's efforts to win the Daytona 500 by STP get a little bit of a setback with that unscheduled stop there just a moment ago and kind of a mix-up on the fuel situation. And now they say it will be at least another lap before we go green. Take a quick minute to remind you, the members of the media in attendance for today's Daytona 500 by STP will vote the Goodies Headache Award to the driver who suffers the hardest luck during the running of the Daytona 500. $1,500 and a sample of Goodies Headache powders and tablets will go to help cure their headache. And there's going to be a lot of candidates in that one before the day is over. Some of them are already in the garage, and I'm sure there are a few drivers out here who've had some bad breaks going on the pits and everything else, and with the way the car is working, certainly a candidate for the Goodies Award.
Let's welcome a few more stations joining us today for the very first time on MRN as part of our 400 station list in 40 states and armed forces around the world. In Avon, New York, WYSL Radio, WJAW-FM in McConnellsville, Ohio, WKZV in Washington, Pennsylvania, WXKW in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Good to have you folks with us. In Columbia, Tennessee, Sterling Marlin's home, WKOM-FM in Dallas, Texas, KGBS Radio, and in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, WXRO-FM. Welcome all of you to Daytona Beach, Florida.
Green flag goes in the air. Dale Earnhardt takes it. He's the leader. Right behind him rides Dale Jarrett. They get at it in a hurry as they work off to turn number 1 down to the west end of the speedway.
Front 2 cars break away. Third place, Ernie Irvan now works to the outside of one of the lapped cars. He'll now clear that machine. That is the Phil Parsons car down to the inside. Here comes Jeff Bodine next in line. He's alongside the Ken Schrader car, all working the outside lane as they power by the slower traffic off turn 2.
About 9 cars a lap or more down in that inside lane, keeping all the lead lap cars up to the outside as they shuffle their way by. Now the 4th and 5th and 6th place cars begin to clear lap traffic as Earnhardt hits turn 3.
Front 5 begin to tighten it up. Ken Schrader at the back of that draft as they shuffle on by the lap cars. Dale Jarrett's machine moves up the banking a bit. Ernie Irvan taking a look there, but nothing doing. They'll stay single file.
This is a very pivotal time in the race because some of these fellas, it's kind of like getting a reprieve from the governor. All of a sudden, they're back in the hunt after having gotten off sequence and so on. Let's see what unfolds here. Dale Jarrett right on the rear deck of Dale Earnhardt's car. Single file among the front dozen heading back to 1.
Nobody stepping out of line as they enter turn number 1. Now Ernie Irvan takes a little bit lower line. He'll fall in behind Dale Jarrett. Jarrett thinks about moving to the inside of Earnhardt, but thinks better and gets back in line in single file.
Jarrett, who started on the outside of the front row, faded back into the field, now working his way back towards the front. For now, staying single file behind Earnhardt. Nobody tucks out of line up into the end of the straightaway.
3 Chevrolets, a Ford, and another Chevy at the back of the draft. That's Ken Schrader. He drifts up way up high on the banking. Down low is Jeff Bodine. No room to make the move there. They'll tuck back in line off 4.
And you can never count anybody out of the event here at Daytona. Remember earlier this afternoon, if you were with us on the broadcast when we first came on, Ernie Irvan dropped way back in the field and had a hard time getting back up there. Now that he is there, he's able to ride right with the 2 leaders, but so are about 20 other cars. They're back in turn 1.
Again, all nose to tail. There's about a car length separating each one among the front 10 cars. Schrader, again at this end of the racetrack, goes way up the banking. The lapped car, Ricky Rudd, falls in behind him, separating him from the 6th place car of Rusty Wallace.
Schrader running right behind behind Jeff Bodine, who is in 4th. Then that lap car and Rusty Wallace, who's running in 6th. 7th is Rick Mast. 8th is Jeff Gordon. Brett Bodine is 9th. Bobby Hillen runs 10th.
Dale Jarrett's black and green Chevrolet tucks down to the inside of the racetrack. The black Chevrolet of Dale Earnhardt is there by a car length off the corner. Ernie Irvin tucks in behind as they exit turn 4.
Winston Kelly had mentioned before that Joe Ruttman had taken his car towards the garage area. Engine failure, the report there. Joe is out for the day, as is Bill Elliott, Jimmy Hensley, and Dick Trickle.
Still a good tight draft at the front of the field. Dale Earnhardt.
Oh, trouble on the back straightaway. Rick Wilson gets into one car. They collide into the outside wall. It's Bobby Hamilton's car. The back of the field scatters. Both drivers do an outstanding job keeping their cars up against the outside wall, and the rest of the field will get by without any further incident. A close call in the middle of traffic on the back straightaway.
And as they come down to the line, caution is on the speedway. Earnhardt will lead them back to the line and continue to be the leader. Ernie Irvin comes across right behind him, and then Dale Jarrett. But caution on the racetrack. Let's go back to turn 3.
Well, back towards the end of the great big long lead draft of cars that were running tightly together on the restart, Barney, a couple of guys started jumping out of line. It looked like somebody might have come off the throttle at the head of the pack. Might have been Hamilton running on the outside who had a problem. Came off the throttle, and when he did and the pack scattered behind him, someone bumped Rick Wilson, who got turned over into Bobby Hamilton's car. The two of them got into the outside wall, and both drivers did a fantastic job keeping those cars up on the outside of the racetrack from coming back across into traffic until the rest of the field had cleared them.
Boy, it is amazing to see an accident happen with 25 cars or 20 cars around you. A couple of cars get together, and everybody else gets by without getting tangled up in it. And we're kind of glad they did, yes.
I'm curious, Winston Kelly, you were standing. I happened to see you right down there in the Rick Wilson, Richard Petty pits. First race for Richard as a car owner. He hears about his car in an accident. What was his reaction? Did he take it calmly? Did he throw his hat? What did he do?
Typical Petty reaction, very calm. Now he's turned and walked toward the garage area as the STP Pontiac with heavy damage to the right front. Rick Wilson having trouble turning it in at the end of the pit road here into where the Unical station is down toward turn 4. But Richard very calm. Bobby Hamilton brings his car on the pit road. Now he pulls away. He's got damage to both the left and right side, but the car is still drivable. But like we said, Richard Petty, as per usual, very calm in his taking of this turn of events, and we'll go try to get a comment from Rick Wilson.
And it's going to take a little getting used to for Richard Petty in this position here today, not to be in the car and to watch it come into the garage area crumpled up a little bit. From the Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio.
Here at Daytona International Speedway, the 4th caution flag of the afternoon as Rick Wilson and Bobby Hamilton tangled down the back straightaway, lap 139. On lap 141, we have seen a few pit stops made. Jeff Bodine has been in. Davey Allison has been in. Wally Dallenbach Jr. now in for service. And so too the Bobby Hamilton car one more time. So a few teams taking advantage of this caution period for some quick pit stops.
Go ahead.
Eli, we've caught up with Rick Wilson. Rick, not the way you wanted to end your first race here with the STP Pontiac. What happened?
Well, the STP Pontiac was running good, and we had a bad pit stop to start with, but we were catching up, and something happened over where Bobby was coming off the corner. So I don't know if somebody hit him or whatever, but he just checked up. He just stopped, and I just went to the inside and went around him when he was coming back up. Somebody got into me and turned me. I don't know.
Haven't been in a Winston Cup car for just right at a year. Is it kind of like getting back on a bicycle, or does it take a while to get used to?
No, it don't take a while to get used to. You don't ever get used to somebody hitting you and spinning you out. But, I know it's just racing. And like I said, I think somebody might have hit him or whatever. But, we're going to try to get the car fixed and, go out and run as much as we can.
That's Rick Wilson, new driver of the STP Pontiac.
Field taking a look at as they come down at the starter stand, and they get the indication 1 lap to go, and several cars will peel off the banking and elect to come to pit road. Here's Kenny Schrader coming in, Ricky Rudd, Brett Bodine, Kyle Petty. Several of the top cars are deciding to make a late pit stop. Let's go down to Dick Brooks.
Well, Ernie Irvin come in the last time by, and they fueled him and put on tires and checked the car over real good. Kyle Petty's in now. They're doing the same thing with him. Schrader, they doing 2 tires on Schrader's car. They checked it over good, get him back out on the racetrack. And these guys maybe going to try to run this thing to the end. I don't know.
57 laps, is that doable? It's going to be darn close, certainly. Jim Phillips, you're the man who follows fuel mileage down there as best as anyone. They were saying 50 laps earlier was conservative. Can they push it 57 if we go green?
Well, they punched up the laps on Thursday, Eli. 55 laps was the most I saw them punch up on their computers and equal it out. The Earnhardt team is 54.5, but I think conceivably if they get a caution or two, they could make it all the way.
Boy, another built-in story all of a sudden.
Well, the one thing on the fuel deal, everybody I've talked to down there says if you're leading, it's changed a little bit from what it was a year or so ago. If you're leading this race now, they say if you are the front car, that you will use a little bit more gasoline than you will if you're back there about second or third or fourth, just kind of being pulled along in the draft. So whoever decides to go for all the marbles here, if they've got a car strong enough to lead this thing, may have to take that into consideration. We'll just have to wait and see. 143 laps on the board. A quick reminder, 2 weeks from today, a NASCAR doubleheader from the North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. Friday afternoon, the Busch Pole updates began at 2:30 Eastern on Motor Racing Network. Saturday, the Goodwrench 200, the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series, we're on the air at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And Sunday, of course, the Goodwrench 500, the Winston Cup Series, we're on the air at 12:30 up there. The Pontiac 400 will be coming up in Richmond, Virginia on March 7th. Green flag goes up in the air, and we are back at it one more time as they chase Dale Earnhardt down to turn one.
Earnhardt leads the way with Dale Jarrett looking in the outside lane, getting by some of the slower traffic. Rusty Wallace runs third, then it's Rick Mast, followed by Jeff Gordon, Bobby Hillin Jr., and Morgan Shepherd, all in line in the outside lane, getting by the slower traffic, all hooked up nose to tail onto the back straightaway.
Morgan Shepherd running in the 7th spot. Mark Martin is right behind him in the 8th position as the field begins to clear some of that lap traffic. Dale Earnhardt bobs a little bit down to the inside. Dale Jarrett right in his tire tracks as they go to 3.
9 cars, the lead lap cars, all nose to tail, now dusting off the lap cars to the inside, beginning to scramble it up in turn number 3 and 4. The front 5 stay nose to tail to the low side of the racetrack on the exit of the corner.
So the single file formation remains intact as everyone holds their positions. Look who's back in the picture now. Morgan Shepherd, who a year ago finished so tantalizingly close to Davey Allison trying to get that win. Couldn't quite do it. And Morgan said to me this morning, all I got to do is pick up one position from last year. He's in the picture in turn 1.
Shepherd's running in the 7th spot, right behind Bobby Hillin. Could have some drafting help in the Ford behind him as well. Mark Martin is there. They're all stacked up nose to tail.
Watching Ernie Irvin, one of those cars who made that late pit stop, work his way back through the traffic. Irvin passed 5 cars on the back straightaway last lap by. Right now he's got no drafting help, although Ken Schrader's trying to come up from behind and help him.
Schrader about 2 car lengths behind. The next car for Ernie Irvin to deal with is Terry Labonte. Now Schrader and Irvin hook up on the bottom of the racetrack. The 2 Chevrolets try to storm forward.
Talk about Morgan Shepherd being back in the picture to win the Daytona 500. You'd better get a wide angle lens if you're going to get all the cars in the same shot that are in the picture here, so to speak. There's at least 15 of them up in that lead pack, including Kyle Petty, who had really dropped back a moment ago due to his gasoline problem. And also the rookie driver, Jeff Gordon, is up there. And Joe Moore, he looks good.
Gordon is there as well as Rick Mast, who we haven't heard a lot from today. Mast running 4th and Gordon right behind him in the 5th spot.
10 cars now, all nose to tail on the back straightaway. Then another 3 or 4 car lengths before you get to that second group charging down the stretch. Bobby Labonte in the middle of that group. Dave Marcus is there. Ernie Irvin trying to close up 2.
Jeff Gordon trying to make a move on Rick Mast on the entrance of turn number 3, but nothing doing. Mast car sticks down to the inside of the racetrack. Also Bobby Hillin sliding up the banking, trying to make a bid for the 4th position.
Bobby Hillin, who led earlier in this race, if you're just joining us, he took the lead for the very first time midway through and has kept it. He was there at lap number 70, showing the strength of that Heilig-Myers Ford. Single file formation still with everybody chasing Dale Earnhardt as they have been doing most of the week.
148 laps.
Trouble on the back straightaway. 1 car in the wall, right in the middle of the field, spinning around down the stretch into the outside wall. As the field scatters by, it's Ernie Irvin. The Kodak Chevrolet torn up on the right side. Everyone else will get by, but Irvin is in the wall on the back stretch.
Caution is on the speedway. The field yet to get it. Here they come off turn number 4. Ernie Irvin scrubbed off a lot of speed, holding the car up against the wall, is now down on the apron of the racetrack. Let's go back to turn 3.
Barney, I've been kind of waiting for that to happen all day. These guys, when they come shooting off of turn number 2, are just tantalizingly close to that outside wall. I've been just kind of waiting for somebody to just slip those 5-6 inches that they've been giving themselves between where they've been taking the line off the corner and the outside wall, and that was the case that time. I think Irvin's car just slipped when he came off the corner. I didn't see any contact from behind. Went into the right side wall, did a great job driving the car, got it off the wall, kept it straight. Everyone scattered behind him. He was running about 2/3 of the way towards the front through the field, so a good 20 cars went by him. Then he brought the car down onto the apron, but Ernie Irvin's car is heavily damaged in the right front.
And we see him on the apron of the racetrack heading for pit road right now. And Ernie Irvin, who has won the Daytona 500, not going to win it here today, but he'd certainly been a contender in the Kodak car. He had been right at the front of the pack. Now he slams into the wall on pit road. It looked as though his car would not steer, and that's where it stopped, just at the entrance to the pit road coming out of turn number 4.
Under caution with 50 laps to go. The cars on the lead lap have not elected to pit. Some that are a lap down have done so. Meanwhile, Ernie Irvin has climbed from the Kodak Film Chevrolet, walking to the garage, and Winston Kelly is right alongside.
Well, Ernie walked by. He said he just soon have a few minutes to gather his thoughts. He's had a real tough afternoon, a real tough week. The 1991 Daytona 500 champion, just liking a few minutes to gather his thoughts before we get a comment from him.
Well, we can understand that because he had a good run going here this afternoon, and now as he get out of the car a moment ago to take a look at it and see that it's all over, not a good feeling.
So caution on the Speedway for the 5th time this afternoon. And again, the question is, do you make a stop at this point, Barney, and take that extra splash of fuel, or do you try and force it the rest of the way? Remember, most everybody pitted at lap 142, 143. They were looking at 57 laps of racing under green flag conditions to go the distance. Now, obviously, under caution, you won't expend quite as much fuel, but to the moment, none of the lead lap cars have chosen to make a stop.
Got a feeling that maybe Earnhardt or a couple of the guys that are running first, second, or third are going to make that call. If you see one or two of them drop off the banking, it's pretty much likely that everybody else will follow suit.
Well, let's see what happens now. Elmo Langley with that Pontiac comes down off turn 4. Earnhardt is going to make a move. Now, is he faking everybody, or is he going to go? He comes to the inside of that broken white line, and here comes the parade of cars down pit road. So at lap 151, 49 laps remaining, the lead lap cars will make a stop. Earnhardt, Jarrett, Wallace, Rick Masters in, Jeff Gordon, Morgan Shepherd, Bobby Hillen, likewise Mark Martin, also in now Bobby Labonte. Here comes Terry Labonte and Ken Schrader. Lake Speed is in virtually the entire lead lap. Dick Brooks has the leaders down near him.
Well, Dale Jarrett was in. They're just going to fuel him. No tires. Kenny Schrader's in. They're going to put tires, right side tires on his car and fuel him. Kyle Petty's in. They're putting right side tires on his car as they're going to fuel it off too. You got to try to top these things off with the car setting level so they can make sure and go all the way. They're still working on Davey Allison's car. They just haven't found out for sure what it is. He said the car is making a funny noise and it's driving kind of wiggly. Bounces a little bit. They thought it was shocks and such, so they have been working on shocks. See if they find a loose one or a bad one. They worked on the front for a while. They couldn't find anything. Now they're in the rear. They can't find anything, so they just nothing that they can find. But to him, the car's not driving right.
Jim Phillips.
Some different strategies on this end of pit road. Dale Earnhardt with gasoline only, no tires for him. Jeff Gordon, the rookie, made a rookie mistake just a minute ago. He came into his pit, and he had to back up because he was across the line before they could do service on him, and he lost some positions there. Bobby Labonte still sits on the pit lane. He got some of that Ernie Irvin wreck over there, and it knocked the front air dam, the right side of it off. They're trying to patch that up. Also in the pits was Jeff Bodine. Mark Martin got tires and gasoline, so did Hut Strickland.
Well, it was hard to tell, but it looked like a couple other cars also might have just topped off the fuel tanks and not bothered to change the Goodyear Eagles on the car and just maybe topped off the tank. We'll follow up on that in a minute. From the Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio.
We're about 3/4 of a lap away from going back to green flag racing. Just got news about a man who has won himself a race car. We want to congratulate Bob Rajewski of Treasure Island, Florida, who has won that 1992 Jasper Engines and Transmissions show car that all of us have been seeing around the country at all the Winston Cup stops. So congratulations from Jasper Engines and Transmissions to Bob Rajewski of Treasure Island, Florida. Got to be nice to wake up and have a race car out there in your driveway in the morning.
Yeah, if we'd wondered what would we do with it, we'd have to find us a driver,
We'd
that's
have to
for
find
sure.
ourselves a driver.
Well, let's get serious because very shortly here, this thing is going to be settled. The Daytona 500 by STP. Earnhardt still very much in contention. He's dodged a lot of bullets, and along with about 10 or 15 other cars, still very much in this thing. Alan Bestwick over in front of you. But if you had to pick somebody that's going to be tough to deal with if he doesn't have a problem, it's got to be number 3.
Well, I would think so, Barney. He's been strong on the straightaways all day, and although the car hasn't necessarily turned in the corners as well as he might like it to, they've never been able to get very far away from him, and he's the only one that's been at the front of the pack. We've seen a lot of others come to the front, fade to the back, come back to the front again, but Earnhardt's the only one that's been at the front of the pack all afternoon long.
Of course, at this point, Dale is going to have to work his way through some race traffic, as at the green flag, you've still got Derek Cope ahead of Sterling Marlin, Hutch Strickland, Brett Bodine, Al Unser Jr., here, cars that chose not to pit during this most recent caution period. Green flag from Doyle Ford. They'll hold their position 2 by 2 back to turn 1.
Derek Cope leads him going back into the corner. The lap car of Harry Gant first he'll deal with down to the inside line. About 8th in line is where Earnhardt sits. He's right behind the Dale Jarrett car. 2 by 2 they make their way through turn 2 and onto the back straightaway.
And still not able to clear the lap traffic. Now the lap cars will move down to the inside a little bit, give the leaders some room to run on the outside, but at the head of that pack, Derek Cope is not able to do anything with Harry Gant, so double wide, they'll go to 3.
Back at about the 8th position, Rusty Wallace looks to the inside of Dale Earnhardt, but lap cars are there on the inside of the racetrack, so no room to make the move. All the lead lap cars on the outside scrambling to try to find their way around.
And right now, traffic is the problem for a lot of cars that are anywhere from about 7th and 8th on back in the field, and that's where the real strong cars that have been at the front of the pack all day are positioned. Dale Jarrett runs just ahead of Dale Earnhardt as they work back into turn number 1, looking for a place to go, 3 wide.
Jarrett is a 7th place car. He goes to work first on Michael Waltrip, pulling down to the inside of him to try to get by. Earnhardt falls in line on the rear deck of Waltrip's car. He'll try to take the high line to make his move off turn 2.
And still the leader, Derek Cope, is not able to clear the lap car of Harry Gant and the other lap cars in that inside line, so they're going to stay bottled up double wide as they come to the end of the back straightaway. Cope still even with Gant.
Gant will pull him just a bit into the corner, get about a fender up in front. Right behind is a Sterling Marlin car. Marlin slides up the banking, but still it's 2 by 2 by 2 all the way back through about the first 10 rows.
Well, we've still got a long way to go here. Lap 155, 45 laps remaining. Here they come back to the stripe. Still Derek Cope ahead of Sterling Marlin. Barney just leaned over to me and said, they must have a heck of a car there for Sterling Marlin after it got slammed back to the ground during that accident of earlier, and running as well as it is, a testimony to the crew for the Stavola brothers that got that Ray Bestis Ford built as well, obviously, as it has been. Still 2 by 2 out of turn number 2.
Now Dale Jarrett and Dale Earnhardt kind of getting sick of being bottled up behind that traffic. They've dropped down to the inside line of cars and are trying to plow their way to the front. They'll bypass a couple of more. Rusty Wallace is going to go down with Dale Jarrett to the inside.
Jarrett moves up to about the 5th position, and here goes Earnhardt to the top of the banking. He'll make it 3 wide back for about the 5th position. On the inside is Rusty Wallace, and it pays off for Earnhardt. He'll gain 1 spot.
Now that's why they talk about you need a handling race. Trouble coming out into the dog leg. 2 cars get together. Bobby Hillen Jr. is out of control. Al Unser also Jr. is out of control. Both spin down on the apron of the racetrack. Remarkably, everybody will get by as they have slid about 12 or 1,500 feet, but at the last second, Kyle Petty will slam into Bobby Hillen Jr. He had absolutely nowhere to go.
Unbelievable. It happened coming out of turn number 4. Whether there was actual contact, whether the air was disturbed, we'll have to wait and find out. But the cars that broke loose, as Barney told you, were Al Unser Jr. and Bobby Hillen. They were posting Bobby Hillen in 13th spot. Al Unser Jr. was being shown right around 10th position. They were working in traffic. Then all of a sudden they broke loose, went sliding sideways, and as we mentioned, everybody managed to get by until literally the very last second when Bobby Hillen's car slid across the grass. Kyle Petty contacts him, and now both Hillen and Kyle climb from their cars here at start-finish. Kyle somewhat distressed with some hand motions, and he goes across the grass. So too Bobby Hillen now, who trots after him, and Hillen wants to have a few words with Kyle Petty, and they are literally nose-to-nose, face-to-face, hand-to-hand as they try to explain things to one another. They do shove once, now a couple of times, and finally stop as the discussion continues. Bobby Hillen Jr. listening at the moment as Kyle Petty, with his hand in the air, makes a rather emphatic point, and both men try to walk off. And again, Hillen is talking until one of the NASCAR officials, Carl Simmons, comes out of the pit lane. And now again, Hillen and Kyle Petty, this time on pit road, begin to jaw rather emphatically, and the NASCAR officials will finally move them aside. So quite an episode here as this accident draws the ire of a couple of drivers in particular. Let's go to pit road.
Al Unser, get him a drink of water. Looks like you're all right. What happened?
I don't know. Dale did me on the outside going into turn 3, and then I tried to come back up in between them, and then he got my right rear corner panel, turned me sideways into the wall. So
did you learn a lot out there today?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's just a shame for Team Valvoline and the whole Hendricks Motorsports, because we were going to go get them there at the end, but it just got too crowded, too many places coming off 4, and that was it.
So Al Unser is out of the race here this afternoon.
And 3 of the top cars in the race will go out of the event here before it is all over. Al Unser Jr. has gone to the garage. Kyle Petty's out, and Bobby Hillen. And what a shame, because all had a good run.
Al Unser Jr. was directly in front of Dale Earnhardt, and Earnhardt had a bird's eye view of that one. And as the cars hit the first time, they also went back directly in front of Michael Waltrip, who was still running out on the racetrack, and that was a very close call. When Hillen came back up the banking, he nosed into the outside retaining wall. Then Kyle Petty made the impact with him some few hundred feet past start-finish, and both cars eventually came to a stop. So obviously some rather short and disappointed men, because all of those cars, even Al Jr., as we just heard, running very, very well, and to get this close to the finish and come up with a late race accident has to be most disheartening.
It's kind of hard to swallow, as we said, when you've got a chance to win the biggest stock car race in the world, no matter whose fault it is. And as the speed these things travel, when somebody touches, you may think so-and-so hit you or did this or did that, and a lot of time tempers flare. I'm sure the two will work it out. But irregardless, as we said, it has taken out 3 of the top cars. Al Unser Jr., Kyle Petty certainly had a chance to win this thing, and so did Bobby Hillen, but unfortunately, it is a short day. Well, a very sad sight going up pit road right now. The mellow yellow Pontiac of Kyle Petty hooked up to the record, and he certainly felt like he had a chance to win it here this afternoon. He is out of the car, visibly upset here just a moment ago, as a little shoving match between himself and Bobby Hillen. We'll try to follow up on that and hopefully get a word with maybe both of them after they have a little time to cool down and get their thoughts together.
Let's get an update from Winston Kelly.
Bobby Hillen has climbed out of the car. He's been talking to his crew members. He felt like he had the strongest car all day long. I'd like to give him a minute just to gather his thoughts, talk to his crew members, talk to Junie Donlevy, follow up on the Ernie Irvin situation. Ernie very uncharacteristically asked for a few minutes. He felt like he got hit by somebody else, and it's very uncharacteristic for Ernie to want to walk away and not talk. He's normally one of the first drivers to come up and say, this is what happened, in a particular situation. We should be able to get a comment from Bobby Hillen here momentarily.
And Rick Wilson has gone back into the race in the STP Pontiac of Richard Petty, being posted 21 laps down in 35th position, but they'll go out there and collect as many Winston Cup points as they can. Talk about drama in a stock car race. The Daytona 500 always seems to find all kinds of things, whether it's a gas mileage factor that wins a race or a little temper flare-up like we saw a moment ago or whatever. We've had a little bit of everything here today, and it's far from being over. There's still 39 more laps.
One other thing we need to mention, when Al Unser Jr. came through the grass, the car came back up onto the racetrack main straightaway, which to many folks might look flat, but itself is banked some 18 degrees. He got that car under control and yanked it back towards the grass out of everybody's way again. We've already heard from Al Jr., and we talked about what he had to say, but it was a nice bit of driving for a man who obviously is used to working with a very delicate piece of machinery in an Indy car, and now has been able to put some of that to use here as well with his Winston Cup car. Let's check in with Winston Kelly again and see if he's gotten a chance to get a bit closer now to Bobby Hillen Jr.
Yes, we have. Bobby, I tell you, you had a whale of a car out there. What happened?
I tell you, I don't know what happened. We were all racing for the win, and my car was working so good, I thought we had such a shot at it. And there's guys up there that hadn't been racing with us. I don't know. They're just everybody going for the win. And I don't know what happened. They just came across in front of me, and then we all just went spinning and sliding, and just one of those deals.
I know it's always difficult right after a situation like that. You and Kyle Petty discussed the situation. What was said there?
Well, he jumped all over me because he thought I let off the brakes in the grass. I had no brakes. I was on him to the floor. I had no control of my car. I went back up in front of the racetrack. It's just one of those deals. He's upset. I'm upset. And, I'd just like to say I'm very thankful. We've got a very understanding sponsor, Heilig Myers. It's their first time in racing. They're a great company, great people, and we thought we had a shot to win this race for them.
Tough return in Winston Cup racing, but Bobby Hillen and the Junie Donlevy team showed that they're going to be one of the teams to reckon with in 1993.
162 laps are on the board. That'll give us 38 more circuits around here. What else do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. I wouldn't even be silly enough to try and guess at this point. We have had 6 caution flags, a lot of drama today. We've had a dominant run for Dale Earnhardt. We've had some surprises at the front, taking advantage of some opportunities. Derek Cope is again leading the Daytona 500 by STP. Sterling Marlin still on the picture. All of a sudden, Hutch Strickland now running in 3rd spot with just 37 laps to go.
Pontiac pace car is on pit road. They drop the green flag, and Derek Cope comes up through the gearbox. takes it off to turn number 1. Now remember, about 4 or 5 of those front cars did not pit that last round of pit stops, and whether they've got enough fuel to go the distance or something else may play out, we'll have to wait and see. They're all back to turn 2.
Derek Cope's got a familiar mate down to the inside. Harry Gant still down there on the lap lane side, trying to get back at least one lap from Cope. But behind Cope is Sterling Marlin in second, then Hunt Strickland, Dale Jarrett, and Brett Bodine.
Those cars all lined up on the outside, single file. Still that group of about 9 lap cars down on the inside, and Cope not able to clear Harry Gant again, just like on the last restart, so they'll stay bottled up into 3.
Earnhardt trying to make a move to the inside, but Kenny Wallace's lap car is down there, so no room to make the move. As a matter of fact, nobody in the outside lane stepping out of line to the inside as they shuffle off turn 4.
What a story this would be for Derek Cope and Cale Yarborough Motorsports if they're able to stay near the front. But again, still a lot of racing to go. Running in the second spot, Marlin. Then comes Hutch Strickland, Dale Jarrett, Brett Bodine, Rusty Wallace, Dale Earnhardt, Michael Waltrip, all tied in tightly together 2 by 2 back in the corner.
Finally, Derek Cope and Sterling Marlin able to get away from Harry Gant. Hutch Strickland follows as well as that outside line advances. Here's Dale Jarrett running along in the 4th spot. He now pulls up alongside the Harry Gant car with Brett Bodine behind him.
Rusty Wallace is running in 6th now, all single file on the outside as the leaders begin to finally clear that lap traffic. The front 4 have gotten by Gant. Now Brett Bodine, Rusty Wallace, and Dale Earnhardt begin to advance.
Wallace moves to the high side of Gant, trying to get on by as the inside lane begins to shuffle backward. The outside lane shuffles forward. Now a scramble for the lead as they come off turn 4. Cope to the outside.
Derek Cope right out against the wall as they scramble up there at the front of the pack, down to the line, diving down to the bottom of the racetrack. Here comes Sterling Marlin, and bringing with him Hutch Strickland in the McDonald's car. They get 3 deep heading for turn 1. This is going to be exciting.
Hutch Strickland right down to the bottom of the racetrack, gets the nose of the McDonald's car out in front, and Hutch Strickland leads the Daytona 500. Here to the inside, Sterling Marlin makes his move. He'll get by Derek Cope as well, but Cope now again pulls even on the back straightaway.
Now Dale Jarrett drops down to the inside line of cars to try and give Sterling Marlin some drafting help. Now dropping down 3 wide is Michael Waltrip. He'll pull by Dale Jarrett. Jarrett will lift and let him slide in front.
Waltrip's yellow Pontiac picking up 2 positions. Dale Earnhardt also in the mix now as he goes 3 wide once again with Rusty Wallace on the outside of the racetrack. Hutch Strickland leads off turn 4.
He is the 13th different leader of this Daytona 500 by STP. The record is 15 different leaders, so just a couple shy of tying the all-time mark. Hut is there, but he's got company again right behind him.
Derek Cope is there right on his rear deck, and looking back also the Dale Earnhardt car. He runs along in the 3rd spot, and Earnhardt on the move again to the bottom of the racetrack. He blows by Derek Cope. Earnhardt pulls up alongside Hutch Strickland.
Trying to take the lead away. All the drafting help is on the outside lane. Earnhardt's got nobody with him for 5 or 6 car lengths till you get back to Sterling Marlin. Still he's able to stay alongside. Now Strickland nudges out in front of him.
Dale Earnhardt goes back about a half a car length now as he shuffles down to the bottom of the racetrack, picking up some drafting help from Michael Waltrip. But now Earnhardt strong on the inside, makes a move for the lead off turn 4.
If you ever wanted to watch a race car work, when you hear a driver talk about my car's not working, Earnhardt's car is working. He can drive it right out against the wall as we saw through 3 and 4. We watched him that time pin it right to the bottom of the racetrack. It's not over. They may get 3 deep on the front row back in turn 1.
Michael Waltrip sits right behind Earnhardt looking for a chance to go underneath, but Earnhardt's right down to the white line. No more room there. So Waltrip falls back in line in single file. For now, Earnhardt left to battle with Derek Cope as Hutch Strickland leads.
Hutch Strickland all by himself on the outside, then Derek Cope, then about a car length back to Rusty Wallace. On the inside lane, it's Earnhardt and Michael Waltrip. Now Dale Jarrett on the charge for 5th.
Derek Cope loses 2 positions now as he tries to shuffle back in line. Michael Waltrip trying to take the 3rd place away, but here comes Cope to the outside. He puts his 4 to the high side. The Pennzoil Pontiac to the inside. Battle for 3rd off turn 4.
This is just a heck of a race here. I mean, 2 by 2. Everybody looking and waiting and watching. Now Jeff Gordon from further back. He'll make it 3 wide, going by both the Ted Musgrave and Brett Bodine cars. He'll work his way to the front while it's double wide for the lead.
Earnhardt goes to the inside of Hutch Strickland again. Strickland sees him coming, blocks the move. Earnhardt goes up the banking a bit. Now right behind them, Dale Jarrett's on the move. To the inside of Michael Waltrip he goes, and Sterling Marlin comes by. Michael Waltrip breaks loose off turn 2. The car goes spinning down to the inside. Rusty Wallace flips 1, 2, 3 times. The car turns gyrations down the back straightaway, still spinning. Finally coming to a rest about halfway down the back straightaway. The cars involved Michael Waltrip down to the inside. Derek Cope involved, and Rusty Wallace badly mangled Pontiac here on the back straightaway.
Rusty Wallace's car got off in the grass and dug into the sand apparently and went end over end at least 4 or 5 times. Sheet metal flies everywhere. The car has come to rest out on the apron of the racetrack, and the safety crews are there immediately. Let's go back to the backstretch.
Rusty Wallace's car again about halfway halfway down the back straightaway. One of the wildest rides we've seen in a long time. It looks similar to the situation yesterday in the Busch Grand National race when Todd Bodine's car broke loose. It looked like he gathered it back in. In this case, it was Michael Waltrip's car that broke loose. Looks like he had it gathered back in, but just off the corner, the rear end began to come around. When it did, it collected all these other cars, and of course they dove to the inside to get away. Derek Cope moved down to the inside and rolled over to the berm here that separates the racetrack from Lake Lloyd. His car there being attended to by safety personnel, and the wildest ride of all again by Rusty Wallace as he ended up about halfway down the back straightaway.
And Eli and I were sitting here in the booth taking a look in the backstretch, seeing that accident. Reminded us of, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but Rusty Wallace almost took that identical ride right out of turn number 2 as the safety crews continue to work on his car.
I want to say it was the first year that we had the cars downsized, and I might be incorrect on that, but that is what I believe. Again, Michael Waltrip broke loose as Derek Cope tried to get by. That's why Rusty Wallace got out of shape. He had to avoid first one car, then a second car, and then as the car got onto the grass and the asphalt both, it was, as Joe Moore said, a many-time barrel roll down the back straightaway.
Eli, an update from the back straightaway. Rusty Wallace has walked away from his race car. He has just climbed from the car and walked to the ambulance. Good news for Rusty.
That is a kind of crash that is so scary to see that car go airborne and flip end over end, but it is sometimes it can be the best kind of crash you can be in. And let me explain why. As long as that car is rolling, turning, not hitting anything, not stopping instantly, it bleeds off all that energy. If you remember a few years ago when Richard Petty had the severe crash coming off turn number 4 and the car tumbled end over end, side over side, but it never hit anything solid. The impact was not that severe, I guess. And Darrell Waltrip had the same type of crash in the backstretch here at Daytona a couple of years ago. But to look at it, it is a frightening sight to watch that car literally trying to tear itself to pieces, and that's exactly what it did coming down the backstretch. The great news is, again, Rusty Wallace walks away from it. Let's give all the credit in the world to NASCAR for putting the safety factors in these cars, that roll cage and everything else that they require in a Winston Cup stock car.
A scary moment, but now with 30 laps to go, the fact that Rusty Wallace is all right will allow us to again focus our attention on the remaining laps of this Daytona 500 by STP. Dale Earnhardt leads. Dale Jarrett is second. Hut Strickland runs in third. Fourth is now the Sterling Marlin car. And running in fifth after that gutsy 3-wide move here through the tri-oval is Jeff Gordon.
From the Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio.
Well, here at Daytona International Speedway, Barn, you asked me before what next. I don't think we could have anticipated that, but again, the news was good that Rusty Wallace walked from his Pontiac to the ambulance. He has already been taken to the infield care center where Winston Kelly is standing by. Winston?
Well, Derek Cope has just pulled behind the wall. He was involved in the accident. First, Derek, we can tell you're okay. What happened?
Well, we were all just bundled up there in turn 2 there, and we come up off the corner, and Michael, got up in front of me, and we just got to push from behind, I got just in the back of Michael, and we couldn't stop, and he got sideways, and we tried to get out of the way, and then, I clipped Rusty as he come by.
The good news is Derek Cope is okay. We talked to Max Helton, who's a minister and travels the Winston Cup circuit with us. He said he talked to Rusty Wallace as they rolled him into the infield care center, said he was alert. He knew what he was, had all his faculties together, talked to him. So they took him in there for a mandatory checkup. We did attempt to talk to Kyle Petty. He came directly from the racetrack on the back of one of the security motorcycles and went into the rig of the Mellow Yellow Pontiac. He's back there talking to his car owner, Felix Sabatis, and understandably wants a few minutes to just get his thoughts together after having the quickest car here most of the week, the pole sitter for the Daytona 500. So we'll still try to get a comment from both Kyle Petty and Rusty Wallace.
Now you got to stop and think. Kyle had a lot of reasons to be upset. We haven't talked about it today, but his car owner, Felix Sabatis, posted $1 million bonus for him if he won this race, in addition to everything else that goes with the race itself. And you can understand, as I said, if you got a car like he's had all day long, certainly he and Earnhardt probably, if I had to pick two cars, it looked to be the cream of the crop, not putting anybody else down. Those would be the two, and to watch it all go up in smoke like that, how could you not be upset?
Certainly, you're upset, and then nobody knows what's going on in the other man's car. Bobby Hillen told us he had no brakes. He was on the pedal to the floor. Kyle apparently, at least from what Bobby Hillen told us, feels differently. Well, hopefully we'll get a comment from someone on that Mellow Yellow team a bit later on. 35 lead changes among 13 drivers 7 caution flags now for 30 laps, an average speed of 153.469 miles an hour. With 9 drivers out of the race, the remaining 32 are set to settle this Daytona 500 by STP. Just 28 laps to go.
28 laps to get it done. Dale Earnhardt just that far away from tasting victory for the first time in a Daytona 500. Dale Jarrett locks onto him as the green flag goes up in the air. Hut Strickland of the McDonald's car is in 3rd place. They're all heading for turn 1.
Sterling Marlin rides along in 4th. Jeff Gordon is 5th. 6th now, the Morgan Shepherd car. 7th is Jeff Bodine. Riding 8th is Ted Musgrave. Here they come, working by the slower traffic. Earnhardt and Jarrett getting by the slower traffic, now beginning to break away from the rest of the pack.
The lap car of Phil Parsons is going to slide in between 2nd place Jarrett and 3rd place Strickland and fill that gap up. Now some smoke as the cars run through some of the stay dry put down on the back straightaway. Here's Hut Strickland trying to move around the Phil Parsons car.
Sterling Marlin will give him help to the inside of the racetrack. Parsons slips up the banking, and those two slide down to the inside. Now the top 5 tack together as they head off turn 4.
Dale Earnhardt still nose to tail, just ahead of Dale Jarrett. Jarrett wearing the Dallas Cowboys headgear as part of his associate sponsorship with the National Football League. He said, why not? This is our Super Bowl, and the Cowboys were the Super Bowl champions. They hold position, the front 7 do, back into turn 1.
Nose to tail following Dale Earnhardt, who goes right down to the bottom line of the racetrack through turns 1 and 2. Jarrett's right behind him, then Hut Strickland and Sterling Marlin. Marlin peeks to the outside, falls back in line in single file.
Beginning to see a 6-car breakaway. Morgan Shepherd, the 6th place car, with about 3-4 car lengths on 7th place Jeff Bodine. Then there's some lap traffic behind Bodine, so he's got no drafting help.
Dale Jarrett looking to the outside as they entered the corner, but now thinking better of it. Now Dale Earnhardt slides up the banking just a bit, but no room for Jarrett to make any moves as they exit turn 4.
And as the laps are winding down, 6 cars nose to tail up in that lead draft, trying to get away from the rest of the field and shut it down to maybe 2, 3, or 4, or as few as they can to settle it for a win of the Daytona 500 by STP. However, nobody gets away. That draft is just as tight as it moves back to turn 2.
Dale Jarrett right just inches off the rear deck of Dale Earnhardt's car. Looking to the inside also is Hut Strickland. Now moving to the outside, Jeff Gordon. He'll make it 3 wide. He goes outside of Sterling Marlin. Morgan Shepherd goes down low.
And Dale Earnhardt bobs to the inside as they come down the back straightaway. That's not going to help Gordon any. Now the lead draft moves back to the outside, so Gordon is going to claim 4th. Marlin and Shepherd racing for 5th.
Marlin to the outside, Shepherd to the inside for the 5th position. Shepherd will pick up some drafting help as Jeff Bodine slips down to the inside, and Sterling Marlin loses a position off 4.
They'll hold single file formation. A lot of folks probably looking at each other saying, can that young man win this thing? Speaking of Jeff Gordon, well, he has caught Hut Strickland, Dale Jarrett, and Dale Earnhardt. The question is the experience level on the Winston Cup Series. But at the same time, Barney, Jeff Gordon has run big tracks many a time in Busch Series competition and so on. The confidence level, I would think, is there for no other reason. He says, heck, I should be running up here. I've done it all my career.
He's been racing a long time. And I asked Dale Earnhardt after the qualifying race the other day when Jeff was so impressive. Here's a battle for the lead in turn 3.
Down the back straightaway, Dale Jarrett drafts down to the inside of Dale Earnhardt. He grabs the top spot.
Hut Strickland goes along with him. Dale Earnhardt shuffles back to the 3rd position. Now Strickland's car goes way up the banking. Here comes Earnhardt to the inside for the 2nd spot.
But while that door-to-door was going on there just a moment ago, it will allow Dale Jarrett to slip away, but not for long. Earnhardt breaks out of that choo-choo train behind him, sets sail, sniffs out the draft on the leader, and heads back into turn number 1.
Morgan Shepherd now comes into the mix. He's jumped up to the 4th position. They'll battle for the 5th spot side by side. Jeff Bodine to the inside of the Hut Strickland machine. Strickland wins that battle. They'll fall back in line in single file. It's Jarrett up front. Earnhardt is 2nd. Then Jeff Gordon and Morgan Shepherd.
They will try and line up now to not let the lead cars get away. So down the back straightaway now, a group of about 20 cars beginning to sort itself out one at a time. It's Jarrett, Earnhardt, Gordon, then Shepherd and Strickland.
3 Chevrolets show the way with Morgan Shepherd the first forward in line. They'll all stay down to the inside of the racetrack. The top 5 cars, nobody steps out of line. They draft together off the corner.
They'll come back single file. Those top 15 still tied tightly together. Nobody making a move for the moment. Lap 179, 21 laps to go. Dale Earnhardt said, I like the view far better from the front. He'll make the move around Dale Jarrett, bring Jeff Gordon with him. Morgan Shepherd also follows through. Remember, Morgan was running 2nd at the conclusion of this race 1 year ago, so he's back at the front as we work now with 20 laps remaining. From Daytona International Speedway, this is MRN Radio. With 19 laps remaining, Dale Earnhardt continues to lead the Daytona 500 by STP. Jeff Gordon runs in 2nd. Then you've got Morgan Shepherd ahead of Dale Jarrett. Those are the top 4. 5th place is Jeff Bodine. 22 laps down. Kyle Petty has just come back onto the racetrack in the mellow yellow Pontiac, but if he runs the final laps now at some degree of decent speed without getting lapped so much, he could pick up at least 6 positions, potentially a 7th position. He's right now in 33rd spot, could end up as high as about 26th before it's over. It's well worth it to run these last 18 laps.
Well, as close as the Winston Cup Championship has been in recent years, even a couple of points make a big difference. So Kyle Petty, very wisely, his team gets him back out there. And of course, to get back in that race car and get out there and drive a few laps, he can kind of bleed off some of the emotion that he was pent up here just a few minutes ago. Let's go to the pit road.
Well, Barney, we're in Dale Jarrett's pits with Jimmy Makar. Jimmy, Dale seems like he can go to the front occasionally. Has a little trouble staying there. Does he think he can just get up there and stay? Or?
Well, I'm not really sure. He hadn't said much on the radio. I think I'm hoping what he's trying right now is just to figure out just how strong he is compared to everybody else and try to get something set up here for the end of the race. You know, still real early. A lot can happen.
Well, he's right about that. A lot can happen. A lot happened in the last 20 laps, so maybe they can do it. But it seems like when he wants to, he can get up in there, especially on fresh tires. Now, hot tires, I don't know what he can do.
Jeff Gordon, the rookie driver, 21 years old, finds himself riding in second place behind Dale Earnhardt here in the biggest stock car race in the world, the Daytona 500 by STP. He won a qualifying race here the other day, and we're about to say a minute ago, I asked Earnhardt, I said, you know, you had a good chance to look him over. That win wasn't a fluke. This youngster's here to stay, isn't he?
I think he is. I've said several times in the Busch Grand National races that he's got a lot of talent that people don't realize he's got, and he's a natural. He gets in there and he feels that race car and he knows what he's doing, and the more experience he gets, the better he's going to get. And to start off here winning at Daytona, that's a good feature, a good deal. If he'll keep progressing as he has in the Busch Grand National and learning and knowledge, and don't go too far on the other side, like he knows it all and keeps learning. It's like me today. I'm still learning. You know, you got to keep an open mind and a good attitude, and I think he will because he's came this far with his attitude, and he's got a good attitude. Jeff's a good kid, and he's got the talent. I think he's going to make it big time.
He's got the best teacher in the world right now riding just in front of him, Dale Earnhardt. Now, whether he can do the master in, as they say, is going to be anybody's guess. They're in the middle of the backstretch, and the laps are widening down.
And right now, single file back through the front 9 cars. Ken Schrader has just taken the 9th spot away. Wally Gallenbach drafting along right behind him.
3 Chevrolets lead the way as they shuffle through the corner. Nobody stepping out of line at about the top 7 cars as they head off turn 4, single file.
In about 10 minutes' time, we'll know how this story unfolds. Dale Earnhardt, with 15 laps to go, has Jeff Gordon right behind him. Then Dale Jarrett, Jeff Bodine, Hut Strickland, Sterling Marlin, Morgan Shepherd, Mark Martin, Kenny Schrader there, all within a bona fide chance of taking the lead here in the 500.
High-speed freight train heading back into turn number 1. The only one out of line is Dale Jarrett. He's third in line, has been taking that higher route through turns 1 and 2, but here at the corner of turn 2 and exiting the back straightaway, he falls back in single file.
Got 3 Chevrolets at the head of the line, then 2 Fords in 4th and 5th, another Ford in 6th and 7th and 8th, so an even split among the makes as they rumble off the 3.
First Ford in line is Jeff Bodine. Bodine looks to the inside as again Dale Jarrett slides up the banking in 3 and 4 as well as 1 and 2, but no room for Bodine to make the move. Everybody holds position.
And Jim Phillips down on pit road. I've watched it all day long here in this 500, one of the most interesting ones we've ever seen. It almost looks like everybody in pit road is frozen in position. That's just how intense they are on watching this race.
Watching from the Earnhardt perspective, they think the Dale Jarrett car, I've talked to several of the crewmen, is the strongest car they'll probably have to deal with. That's Richard Childress. Richard, is coming down to game time. What about your chances?
Well, you know, I like it where we're at right now, but there's some awful strong cars. You know, Jeff's done just a great job all week down here, and so is Dale Jarrett. So, you know, it's just going to be tough. You know, it's up to the drivers right now.
Well, the last time you did not take on tires, a lot of teams did it. Has it affected the car any at all? Could you tell a difference?
No, not really. He said he really liked that set of tires, so we wanted to stick with it.
He's got about 7 more laps on his tires than does Jeff Gordon and Dale Jarrett, so if that could make a difference, but it hasn't so far.
Just looking at the way they started here earlier this afternoon, Eli, 3 of the front 4, well, actually the top 3 positions right now started up in the front 4 spots, with the only car that's missing in there is Kyle Petty.
And we had said earlier how oftentimes the fastest car doesn't win the 500. This year it appears that the fastest cars will have a chance at settling it as they work our way towards 12 laps remaining. In 1989, Dale Earnhardt led as late as lap 190. He has led as late as lap 194 and again lap 199. Bodine, and 3 very close but no cigar finishes for him in the Daytona 500 by STP. Now he is leading as we come to lap 191. 9 revolutions of the Speedway remain, with Jeff Gordon second, Dale Jarrett third, Jeff Bodine and Hutch Strickland rounding out the top 5 cars. In the infield, near the Care Center, Winston Kelly has a report.
Patty Wallace, Rusty's wife, came out of the Care Center a moment ago and said Rusty had a couple of cuts on his chin, and other than that, he's okay. He's still in there getting a couple of stitches, but the good news after that wild ride is Rusty Wallace is all right.
Let's go to pit road.
We're in the Jeff Gordon pit with his crew chief, Ray Evernham. You got 10 laps to go. You got the rookie and the champion. Can you get around him?
He's awful strong. You know, I don't know if we can or not. Jeff's not saying much. You know, the 3 car's real strong. We're going to try.
I know that your car was pushing earlier in the race. Did you get that corrected?
Yeah, we hit a tire on the way out pit road, and it knocked the air dam down a little bit, and we kept working on it. We were pretty much junk in the middle of the race, but now it seems to be good.
Well, there's no sign of nerves down here at the Gordon pit. Everybody looks pretty calm for this rookie driver's crew, so they're calm, and I'm sure he is too.
8 laps to go. 3 cars real tight together, and a couple more certainly within striking distance in turn 2.
Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, and Dale Jarrett. Then a couple of car links back, Jeff Bodine and Hutch Strickland.
Then a few farther back than that, Ken Schrader will occupy the 6th spot, but 6th on back has fallen off just a bit from the front 5. Bumper to bumper, those first 5 into 3.
Now Jeff Bodine tightens it up behind the other 3 Chevrolets leading, and once again sliding up the banking is Dale Jarrett's Chevrolet. Jeff Bodine looks to the inside. No room to make the move.
Each time through turns 3 and 4, Dale Jarrett goes about a half groove higher than do the other 4 cars in that lead draft. Of course, it all evens out once they come out of the corner, and it's again single file here at the start-finish line. 7 laps to go as they steam back into turn number 1.
Earnhardt leads the way. Jeff Gordon right behind him, looking out to the outside. No chance to move there. He looks to the inside. Slower traffic. The wrecked car of Kyle Petty limps along in that inside lane. It's Gordon right behind Earnhardt with Dale Jarrett following.
Everybody single file on the high side of the racetrack as they clear the Kyle Petty car. Ken Schrader running 6th, has Morgan Shepherd right behind him. Then comes the Mark Martin and Sterling Marlin's car. They're beginning to catch the front 5.
Morgan Shepherd trying to make a move on Schrader at the end of the back straightaway, but Schrader takes his car right down to the inside of the racetrack. Now Hutch Strickland losing the draft of the front 4 just a bit off turn number 4.
This is the 35th running of the Daytona 500, and I've seen them all, but I'll have to say this is one of the best ones I have seen in all those years, and it is still far from being over. Dale Earnhardt trying to silence some of his critics, saying he can't win the big one. He's in command very much so right now, but he's got 3 and possibly as many as 5 cars yet with a chance to take a shot at him. They're back in turn 2.
3 Chevrolets lead the way, 2 Fords right in behind him. Earnhardt takes it wide off the corner. Gordon peaks down low, but again they fall back single file.
And for now, everyone content to ride in line all the way back through the front 12 cars as they rocket down the back straightaway, beginning to approach some lap traffic as they head up into the banking.
But Strickland still losing the draft with a front 4 now as everybody starts to drift up the banking just a bit as lap traffic is only a few car lengths ahead, but they'll stay down low on the exit of turn 4 as Dale Earnhardt leads again back to start finish.
The indication now will be 5 laps to go as Doyle Ford leans out over the starter stand and just waves those 5 fingers in the direction of the drivers. They get that signal and head back into turn number 1, closing in on 1-lapped car.
Bobby Labonte in the car they'll close in on. Labonte sees him coming, begins to drop down to the inside of the racetrack. Earnhardt leads the parade as they come into turn number 2. Gordon right behind him. Jarrett looking down low, single file. They'll work off the corner.
And that lead pack begins to split apart. What had been closing together to be a 9-car draft is now split off into 4, 1, and 4, then another 4, although there's not much distance between all 4 groups.
Getting around the lap car, splitting up the top 4 just a bit, and now Jeff Bodine loses the draft with the top 3 Chevrolets. Dale Jarrett's car slides up the banking, but he'll bring it back down low as they exit 4.
Well, if there is an unknown in this 4-car group coming out of turn number 4 to settle the Daytona 500 by STP, it's certainly the rookie driver, Jeff Gordon. Now, he's impressed us in Busch Grand National Racing and also what few Winston Cup races he's been in. Dale Earnhardt's got the car. He's got the experience. Dale Jarrett's been here long enough to get it done. Now it's a 3-car breakaway, and that's how it may end up settling the 500. They're back in turn 2.
Jeff Gordon's got to be looking back wondering if Dale Jarrett's going to fall in and help him in the draft. And, of course, Jarrett's trying to figure out if Gordon's going to fall in behind him when he makes his move. Right now it's single file in the back straightaway.
Everybody running nose to tail. Nobody dodging down to Earnhardt, not making a move to try and break the draft. Earnhardt, Gordon, Jarrett.
Jeff Gordon tightens it up just a bit at the end of the back straightaway. Again, Dale Jarrett's car slides up the banking, but not quite so high this time. He keeps it to the bottom of the racetrack on the exit of the corner as the three Chevys rumble back to start-finish.
Nobody is making a move. Nobody is yet snaking down the main straightaway. They'll hold their positions nose to tail. Earnhardt, Gordon, Dale Jarrett, 3 laps to go. They're heading back to turn number 1.
Goodwrench Chevrolet, followed by the DuPont Chevrolet, followed by the Interstate Battery Chevrolet, all single file. Once again going to the inside of the track in turn 1. They're followed by the Motorcraft Ford of Jeff Bodine and the McDonald's Ford of Hunt Strickland. Single file working off turn 2.
Shadows beginning to grow off the banking in the west end of the Speedway in the late Florida afternoon. Now the cars emerge from the shadows into the bright sunlight on the back straightaway. Still now beginning to tighten up again. Jeff Bodine makes it a 4-car lead draft.
He'll put his red Ford just about 1 car length off the back bumper of Dale Jarrett as again Jarrett slides up the banking, but sticking down low. Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt as they lead off the corner.
Here they come back to start finish again. Still holding their positions. Nobody making a move. Each time through the trioval, Gordon looks inside. Jarrett looks outside. Dale Jarrett wants second spot. He says, Jeff, if you're not going to make a move, I'll try it. And Dale Jarrett tries to grab second place.
Dale swings it wide up in turn number 1, getting around the Gordon car, but he hasn't cleared him yet. Gordon holds the inside line, tries to pull even. In turn 2, though, Jarrett will get by. Now drops down in front of Jeff Gordon.
And Dale Earnhardt did not get away. Most importantly, while they were racing side by side, if you're a Jarrett fan, he is there. He's on Earnhardt's back bumper, nose to tail the front 5 as they rocket off into 3.
Tighten it up coming into turn number 3. Jeff Gordon trying to make the move to the inside, anticipating perhaps Jarrett sliding up the banking, but this time he doesn't. Earnhardt slides up the banking. Here comes Jarrett to the inside to try to lead the Daytona 500.
Little less than 3 miles down to the checkered flag, and down to the inside comes Dale Jarrett. Now they draft to the start-finish line, and the rookie driver is going to draft with Dale Earnhardt to try and push him back to the front. They're heading for turn 1 the final time.
Get even up front. It's Dale Jarrett down on the inside, Earnhardt in the outside lane. Drafting help behind Jarrett is Jeff Bodine. It'll slide Jarrett up front. He's in front of Earnhardt. Now it's Bodine diving to the inside. He'll try to pull even with Jarrett.
Hunt Strickland draws up behind Jeff Bodine. 3 cars on the outside, 2 cars on the inside. Halfway down the back straightaway. Jarrett leading by a car length. Earnhardt fades back off his back bumper. Jarrett to turn 3.
Jeff Bodine is shuffled to the back end. Now battles with Jeff Gordon for the 3rd spot. Up front, Dale Jarrett leads Dale Earnhardt off turn 4 by 1 car length back to the checker.
Here they come off turn number 4. Dale Jarrett's got the lead. He goes to the inside. Earnhardt's not going to get him. Dale Jarrett is going to win the Daytona 500 by STP. Earnhardt 2nd, Jeff Bodine 3rd. A battle for 4th place coming across the line side by side. Folks, in the booth next to us where CBS Sports is televising this event, Ned Jarrett just jumping around with a big smile on his face. Martha Jarrett, the mother of the family. Joe Gibbs and the crew on pit road. What a story. Let's go to pit road.
Well, Joe Gibbs is here. I'll tell you, these guys, I don't know what they do in football, but they're attacking each other here. Joe, did you expect this was going to happen?
One of the biggest thrills of my life, I'll tell you. Everybody's worked so hard. I can't take much credit for this other than Vic and Dale and Jimmy. What a fantastic job by the crew. And a great job by Dale all day. I want to say, hey, I just thank the Lord for having this kind of opportunity. I just say a special thanks to him because the Lord's blessed me with 2 great thrills, coaching football and being in racing.
No big bucket of water here, though.
No bucket of water here. It's going to go to me anyway.
All right, I'll tell you. Dangerous down here. These ball players can hurt you.
I tell you what, we've seen a lot of Daytona 500s, but this has to be rated as certainly one of the best and most exciting right down to the wire.
It has been 39 races since that champion spark plug 400 at Michigan back in August of 91. The first time Dale Jarrett visited a Winston Cup victory lane, driving then for the Wood Brothers. Now he is in victory lane in the sport's biggest event as he wins the Daytona 500 by STP.
NASCAR Today continues on MRN Radio, sponsored by Ford and your local Ford dealers who invite you to see the exciting lineup of tough Ford trucks.
Well, it's over at Daytona. Dale Jarrett will be heading down to victory lane. Right now, let's check in with Winston Kelly.
Man, we got to quit meeting like this, Dale. You had a great run. What happened those last few laps?
Got passed.
How about going through turn number 2 and coming off of turn number 4? What happened? Was there any contact there?
No, just passed me.
That's Dale Earnhardt. He didn't get this big prize that he'd hoped to get all week long. He had the strongest car. Dale Earnhardt comes home second this afternoon.
I think this will probably hurt Dale Earnhardt as much as any 500 that he's ever had get away. He certainly had the car and everything here today. A lot of circumstances going on in that final lap over in Turn 2. There was a lot of shuffling around by a lot of cars up there. And the best laid plans of mice and men, as they say sometimes. You could hear it in Earnhardt's voice. You hate to lose this kind, but he did.
Also a true champion, though. A lot of fellows might not have taken the time to talk to us either, and Dale Earnhardt did. I'll tell you, there are a lot of teams that are very well prepared, obviously, but they tell me that this Dale Jarrett Interstate Batteries team has as many cars, as many engines, as many parts already set to go to Rockingham, to Richmond. They worked tirelessly all winter, and it pays off with his first Daytona win. Let's check back in with Jim Phillips now.
One of the players in those final laps was Jeff Bodine. Jeff, you got back there a little bit, then you caught back up, and you were a player in those last few laps.
Got back up, I tell you, I didn't think we were going to. We got some debris on our grill. We had to clean the grill off. And at the end, the last 20 laps, it still ran about 250 degrees. I don't know how this engine stayed together, but just needed a little help. The other 4 drivers just couldn't run into corners like I could, and they couldn't push me up by right there at the end. I got under Jarrett after he passed Earnhardt. Really the right move, just needed a teammate.
So nobody up there to help you at all. The GM players played with the guys, right?
Well, I picked Dale Jarrett there at the end down the straightaway because that was my best chance to get to the front, and I got underneath him. I just needed some help underneath to keep on going, but good run for the Motorcraft car. Really proud of this race. The team did a great job. I say hi to Bud Reese back home, and my father, he's sick, and Matthew and Barry, we love you, and we'll be home tomorrow.
Jeff Bodine comes on third here this afternoon at the Daytona 500 by STP.
And this crowd is still in shock at the way it unfolded in those final laps, and Dale Jarrett's down in victory lane. We'll get his thoughts here in just a moment. Right now, let's check again in the pits. Well, apparently, our guys are still trying to track down a few. Go ahead.
I believe we can get in here to Dale now. I think he's got a family full there. Kids is coming up over the car. Wives coming up over the car. I'll tell you, Dale, I'll tell you, this is just about as exciting a race as we ever seen. I'll tell you, you go a long, long time, and all of a sudden something like this happens. Tell us about the last 2 or 3 laps anyway.
Well, I've been trying to decide where Rick Hendrick's right here. I've got to thank him and Rick Wetzel and everybody at Hendrick Motorsports for the great engine that they gave me in this car today. It just worked fantastic all day long. But I've been trying to see where I could make a move to try to get by him. I knew that I was going to kind of have to do it by myself. And my car was really working good up high, and I got a run on Jeff there, and then Dale kind of slid up the racetrack there, and I don't know if his car got loose or pushed right there, but gave me a run down on the bottom. I was still wide open, and everything just worked out perfect. We touched a little bit, and I didn't know if I was going to get by him. I think Jeff Bodine helped me get by him going down to 1, and once I got there, I thought they'd have a hard time getting by me.
Well, there was a lot of things went on the last 30 or 40 laps of the race. Did you have any problem, any close things over there?
No, I was fortunate to be in front of everything there. I'm glad that Rusty's okay and everybody else that was in the wreck is okay. And we just want to thank the Lord for a safe race there. And he's the one that brought us home here. Thank Joe Gibbs and Jimmy Maycar for a great race car that they gave me. What a way to start here.
Heard your dad just giving you an interview from the booth up there. What was he saying to you?
He was making sure that I told everybody that's how he taught me to do it. So I listened pretty good.
Yes, you sure did. Well, I tell you can't have a much better day than this. And
good luck to you guys. No, you sure can't. We got to thank our sponsors, Interstate Batteries, Shell Oil, Food Lion, and Marriott Hotels. Everybody, this is a full team effort, and all these guys here and the guys back at the shop that didn't make the trip down, we'll have a celebration there for y'all.
Dale Jarrett winning the Daytona 500. You got to give him a lot of credit. He never lost his cool all day long. A couple of times he went pretty far back in the pack. Every time he came back, and with 4 or 5 laps to go, he just sit up there and rode, bided his time, made the right moves. He's in victory lane.
And was it Richard Childress or was it Dick Brooks, after talking to RC, who at one point late in the race said that the car that team feared the most was Dale Jarrett? And at that point, remember, Jarrett was not running second. I think he was 3rd or 4th. Dick, was that one of your observations, or was that something we had heard from Richard Childress at the time?
Yeah, I think that was Jim talking to Childers. Here comes the ice bucket. I missed it. I think this is the second year in a row that the second generations maybe won this thing too, right? If that's, was it Davey last year and now Ned this year? Dale this year?
That's right. Of course, Ned never found his way to victory lane here. 13 different leaders, Winston Kelly. Lead changed hands 38 times, an average speed of 154.972 miles an hour. Go ahead, Winston.
One of the gentlemen that was right up there in the thick of things, we talked to him before the race to see if he could be up there at the finish, and you definitely were. Jeff Gordon, tell us about those last few laps.
Man, what a day, what a day. That's a memory I'll never forget. I mean, running with Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett and those guys, I mean, it was just incredible. You know, I never, ever anticipated to have the day we did. We fell behind the middle portion of the race, thought we could never come back, but, hey, we had luck on our side also besides a good car. So we had a good day, a real good day.
With 2 laps to go, Jarrett went around the outside. Did that kind of surprise you that he made a move that soon and to the outside?
No, not at all. He was trying to make a move. I was trying to hold him back. I just didn't want him to make the move quite like he did. But, hey, you know, I mean, he won the race. I didn't.
A great run by Jeff Gordon this afternoon. He comes home in 5th.
Unofficially, here's the top 5. Dale Jarrett wins. Earnhardt finishes 2nd. Jeff Bodine runs 3rd. Hut Strickland is 4th. And Jeff Gordon round out the top 5. The members of the media covering today's Daytona 500 by STP have voted the Goodies Headache Award of $1,500 to Kyle Petty. Plus a $250 donation will go to the Brenner Children's Hospital in Winston-Salem, North Carolina from Goodies Manufacturing and from Kyle Petty.
So the Gatorade Circle of Champions Award, as it has been for the last number of years, goes again today to Dale Jarrett, who is the winner of the Daytona 500 by STP. Jim Phillips has more from the garage.
Well, a team that wanted to get off to a good start this year was Junior Johnson's McDonald's team, and Hut Strickland, you did that today with a good 4th-place finish here this afternoon.
Well, Jim, I tell you, all the credit's got to go to the guys who work on that car. We knew the General Motors products was going to be tough, and, Mike Hill and Pete Peterson, they knew that we had to get the car where I could run it wide open all day. And, they worked real hard on that McDonald's Ford and, just got the thing really where you could hold it wide open, and that seemed to be the key.
The first half of the race, you weren't there. It didn't seem like after the 100-lap mark, you started coming on.
Well, we were searching there a little bit. We'd started the race, and the car was really good. Then we kind of got loose on me. We kept adjusting. We went too far, and we just kept working, and we finally got it back at the right time. And, they made a lot of great calls in the pits, which give us some track position. And, I'll tell you, I'm just tickled to death, to be a part of this Junior Johnson McDonald's team.
You fell back a little bit there in that last 3 or 4 laps. Then you caught back up, and I understand there's some water coming out of one of the cars that kind of hampered your vision.
Well, I think Jeff Bodine was spraying some water there a little bit there. I seen a little bit coming out the back of his car, and I think that was a little bit of that was getting on the tires caused me to push. But, he went in the corner one time a little bit too high and just, enabled me to run in some clear racetrack. And so, I just kind of had to dodge the water a little bit there. But, we was lucky to pass Jeff Gordon there at the stripe. And, it was a good run for us.
Hut Strickland gets his McDonald's team off to a great start for 93 with a 4th-place finish here in the Daytona 500 by STP.
Just a remarkable day of racing as Dale Jarrett gets the win, bypassing Dale Earnhardt on the final lap to take his first ever victory here at Daytona International Speedway. Let's update you on a couple of other items again from the garage area. We have once again made the offer to Kyle Petty to step to the microphone and discuss the incident of earlier today with Bobby Hillen, and the team says that Kyle, for the moment, just chooses not to say anything. We certainly respect his wishes, but we do want to make it clear that the opportunity was presented to him, as we did hear from Bobby Hillen earlier in the broadcast. Also, Winston Kelly updates us that, as we heard through Rusty Wallace's wife, Patty Wallace, that Rusty is doing fine. Just a couple of stitches to close a little cut in his chin, and he is already retired to the sanctity of his motorhome to head on back to North Carolina. So that's certainly good news after that very, very scary flipping accident.
Well, it was quite a day here at Daytona. Let's take a look at the final rundown. Dale Jarrett is the winner. Dale Earnhardt finishes 2nd. Jeff Bodine comes home 3rd. Hut Strickland, in his first outing in the McDonald's car, will post a 4th-place finish. Jeff Gordon finishes 5th. 6th to Mark Martin. 7th to Morgan Shepherd. Kenny Schrader comes up with a pretty good run. Will finish 8th. Sterling Marlin 9th. Wally Dallenbach is 10th. 11th will go to Terry Labonte. 12th place will go to Rick Mast. Jimmy Spencer finishes 13th. Lake Speed 14th. Ted Musgrave 15th. Michael Waltrip comes home 16th. Brett Bodine 17th. Darrell Waltrip 18th. Jim Sauter 19th, and rounding out the top 20 was Bobby Labonte. Quick reminder that 18 cars were on the lead lap at the finish. Talk about competition. We had it.
It was something special today. 21st place finisher will be Harry Gant. In 22nd, Phil Parsons. 23rd goes to Kenny Wallace. 24th will be Chad Little. The 25th place finisher is Jimmy Horton. In 26th is Alan Kulwicki. Bobby Hamilton finishes 27th. Davey Allison 28th. 29th spot will be Derek Cope, and finishing 30th, Ricky Rudd. 31st is Kyle Petty, so he does pick up a few more positions by returning to the racetrack late in the day. 32nd is Rusty Wallace. 33rd, Dave Marcus. 34th spot belongs to Rick Wilson. In 35th, Bobby Hillen Jr., who led this race three times today. 36th is Alan Sir Jr. 37th, Ernie Irvin. The 38th place finisher is Joel Ruttman. In 39th, Bill Elliott, who left early with an engine failure. 40th spot goes to the Jimmy Hensley car, driving for Jimmy Means, and the first driver out of the race going just 2 laps was Dick Trickle. Some other racing news from last night, the 1993 NASCAR Winston Racing Series Invitational. That was the $50,000 showdown at the Volusia County Speedway. It was won by Barry Beggerly of Pelham, North Carolina. Larry Phillips, the many-time Winston Racing Series national champion from Springfield, Missouri, finished in second. Jay Fogelman of Durham, North Carolina was third. Frankie Pennington fourth out of Lexington, Virginia. And Charles Powell from Moncks Corner, South Carolina, coming home in fifth spot. The $10,500 award going to Barry Beggerly. And don't forget, the NASCAR Winston Racing Series gets underway very shortly at racetracks all across America. Nearly 100 tracks carrying the NASCAR banner this year. America's best short track racers going for their regional and eventually the national Winston Racing Series title. If you'd like some information as to the Winston Racing Series track nearest to you, just write to NASCAR Public Relations, Post Office Box 2875, Daytona Beach, Florida, 32120. And I'll tell you something, Barn, there's some good racing across the country, but it's going to be kind of nice to take a week off after the finish we saw here. I think we'll all be needing the week to catch our breath before we head to Rockingham.
Yeah, I think this has kind of drained everybody, from the people who work the race like ourselves and the television and the pit crews and the drivers and everything else. It'll be nice to have a week off. Then it'll be nice to get back to it again. A couple of weeks from today, the Goodrich 500, the Winston Cup Series continues up at the North Carolina Motor Speedway. And after this one, a lot of these guys that were in the event today can't wait to get back out there and see what they've got on the 1 mile speedway up there.
We want to thank Joe Moore, Alan Bestwick, and Fred Armstrong, who all week long brought you the coverage around in the corners. Our pit reporters who put on a lot of miles on their running shoes. Jim Phillips and Winston Kelly, and a lot of miles on his walking shoes. For Dick Brooks, we thank all of them for their fine work. Martha Oliver and Judy Robinson were on the scoring loop. Our production assistants were Eddie LaRue, James White, and Paul Horvath. For Barney Hall, I'm Eli Gold. Thanks so much for spending Speed Weeks 93 with us here in Daytona, and our congratulations to the entire Interstate Batteries team and driver Dale Jarrett.